here's a curiosity. My friend's house is getting renovated. This is a person that has more money than me. And had to move to his grandparents' house in Santa Cruz while doing the renovations. But then right after arranging that, they found out that their structural engineer had died.
Oh, Lord.
And so the work isn't starting.
Oh.
Yeah, that's a surprise that you can have.
Hey, when that happens.
Yeah.
Here's a curiosity. I've got this big black box, and I don't really know what's inside it, so I decided to enlist 3 billion people to tap on it.
Mm-hmm.
And whoever opens it at the end, I decided they could just have it because I'm sick of it.
Nice. How many cans you got?
Upwards of 20.
Nice. It's very good.
There's a potential Donkey Kong kill screen if you want to watch. If anybody wants to see, there's a Donkey Kong kill screen coming up. There's a Donkey Kong kill screen coming up if anybody wants to watch. There's a Donkey Kong kill screen coming up if anybody wants to see it. There's a potential Donkey Kong kill screen if you want to watch. Hey Todd, if you're interested, there may be a Donkey Kong kill screen in a couple minutes. This is episode 256 of Insert Credit, the video game podcast where the fifth character is a horrible buzzer. I'm Alex Jaffe, and my most frequently visited arcade as a child was a place in Dania Beach, Florida called Boomers, which also had a go-kart track and 6 miniature golf courses, and in its last years, the world's largest wooden roller coaster called the Hurricane, which nobody ever rode.
Nice.
Yeah.
I wouldn't ride that.
On Tuesdays, you could get unlimited plays on any non-ticket dispensing arcade game for a flat fee of $20. It was demolished in 2015, and there's a shopping plaza there now where I last watched Baz Luhrmann's Elvis and bought a microphone headset that does not work.
Excellent.
Oh, yeah.
How many times did you watch Baz Luhrmann's Elvis?
Just the once.
Oh, just because you last watched it there, so I was figuring you watched it a couple other times somewhere else.
No, that's the last thing I did at that shopping plaza.
Yeah.
I
inferred that meaning as well.
I knew what you meant.
I think you got to really kind of do a little stretcher to milk the stone of that alternate
And I did.
interpretation.
I did do that.
Yeah, that's and people keep asking me why I don't keep coming on this show.
Lord,
it's a sort of thing I don't need.
Well, welcome
All
back.
right, so I got a pretty good one here. So
Yeah.
Well, let's hear it.
So Jaffe, this is most frequented in my youth, right? That was
correct.
Okay. I'm Frank Spaldi, and the arcade I most frequented in my youth was the arcade inside of the Showboat Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas, because my grandma was a bit of a bingo addict, and she'd take me there while she played bingo. Bingo! Exactly.
Wow, I tried to get it right when you said bingo, and I got it. Let the record show. Let the record show the timing. I got it right on there.
Very good. And she'd just kind of leave me there and go play her bingo. And bingo!
I got it that time as well. It's just it didn't play. Windows, man. Sorry. It's just, it's going to get the file anew every time. I'm sorry.
It's all right.
Thank you.
She'd give me, I don't know, $10 or something. If I ran out, then just kind of had to watch the track modes for a while. Played a bunch of Funhouse pinball game there. That's where that became my favorite pinball game. Played a bunch of I don't know, X-Men or whatever. Showboat went away in 2004. That was a long time ago for those kids listening. The property it was on, it was demolished. There's really not much there. However, there is apparently last year the Showboat Park Apartments were open on part of that property, and they're planning a Wildfire branded casino. In this area, so that should be.
That explains the connection to Enen no Shobotai.
Yeah, I don't know what that is, but I'll let you have that one.
It's Fire Force.
It's probably a really good joke.
Yeah.
It's a callback to some joke that Tim was making earlier.
About like 100 episodes ago.
Yeah.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, back when the Showboat was still operating as a casino.
Right.
Yeah.
Love a good showboat. My favorite kind of showboat is when you say
my defenses are impregnable. My style is impetuous. I'm Alexander the Great.
That's my favorite kind of showboating, if you know what I mean. When you say that When you say your style,
My
is
style
impetuous,
is impetuous.
I get the
that's
gist.
that, in a good pose while you say something like that.
Tim, what
Yeah, it's
arcade
me, huh?
did you frequent as
My name
a
is
child?
I'm Tim Rogers, and what arcade did I frequent most as a child? It's worth noting my childhood occurred spread out across about 28, 29 different cities in the United States of America. So as much as I would like to possess nostalgia for the Aladdin's castles and such of the various, first floor J.C. Penney corners of the malls that I did hang out in as a child, the arcade that I encountered the most, if we can call it the one I frequented the most, would happen to be whatever arcade machine was positioned inside of Anthony's Pizza. Anyone who grew up on U.S. military installations worldwide will have perhaps some great fondness for Anthony's Pizza. It is the name of the New York-style pizzeria inside the PX Post Exchange or BX Base Exchange on any U.S. military installation, and they would usually have a couple of arcade machines. So, to me, Anthony's Pizza was the arcade, and these things are prefab, right?
Yeah.
So the whole BX PX is a giant concrete prefab, just drag and dropped into a different military base. So it was the exact same arcade in every single one of them. Like, it was the same layout. So that's my arcade. Thank you.
That's a great answer.
Thank you.
I'm Brandon Sheffield. If we're talking about youth, it's not technically an arcade, but I'm sure that it fits the bill. Laval's Pizza in Berkeley, near the UC Berkeley campus, is probably the first place I got to play arcade games. And I played I played Final Fight there. I played Rampart. Eventually, I played Metal Slug there. They had a lot of games that they would rotate out. They don't have games anymore, but unlike all the rest of these places, the building and pizza place is still there. So that's nice. But probably the actual arcade that I played in the most was Starbase 1, I think it was called, which was near my high school, and the very few times that I cut class to go play games there. And I played games there after school sometimes, and when they shut down they didn't actually shut down until 2010 or 11 or maybe even later. And sadly, I did not go to their closing down sale and buy their sign or their something. That would have been nice, but it was like sticky floors, rude proprietor, old under-maintained games. It actually pretty much sucked. But I spent a fair amount of time there.
An authentic experience.
It was an authentic experience, and it was nearby.
An arcade that sucks is how it goes. It's worth noting that the Anthony's Pizza arcade machine zone was in fact contained inside of a dark tinted plexiglass box that was dark inside. So it really did, looking back on it in my memory, it really did feel like an arcade. And the instant the Neo Geo became a thing, every Anthony's Pizza worldwide had a Neo Geo.
Oh yeah!
Wow, military approved.
That was filled with the maximum number of games, and they were always rotating in and out, and it was fun to see what Neo Geo games were in there.
Yeah,
so we played a lot of Neo Geo while eating pizza that, as a person who has lived in New York for 5 years now, coming up on 6, the pizza at the Anthony's Pizza New York style pizzerias and U.S. military installations worldwide they still have Anthony's pizzas. That's good pizza. So there's
I wonder
that,
who the Anthony is. Was he like a military veteran who made pizza?
The Anthony name is apparently just made up.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of prefab restaurants and stores located on military bases. I could speak about this at great length at some point in the future if anybody would be interested. Though there's the convenience stores are called Shopette, where they have this really cool, you don't have to love America to admit that the U.S. military has some hecka good graphic design skills, dude.
Mm-hmm.
So the Shopette logo is just burned into my brain. It's so good. I just remember as a young lad biking down there to read Conan the Barbarian comics, Fort Meade, Maryland, and just being like, man, that's a good looking, maybe I could be a graphic designer someday. I didn't really think those exact words, though. That was somewhere in my brain there. Thank you. That's the end of my story again.
Well, I have to put in a correction before we resume, which is So it's New York style pizza, right? Pizza is mostly an Italian food. We all agree.
Hey,
Half of my upbringing was from New York Italian, so I need to correct you as Antony's.
Anthony's pizza.
Antony's pizza.
Hey, it's Anthony's Pizza.
That's a valid correction.
I live down the block from a place called Giovanni's Pizza. And it's Giovanni's Pizza.
Giovanni's, right? That's right.
Yeah, but it's spelled a different way on the sign, the menu, and online.
Oh yeah,
Which is
I love
so
it.
good.
That's authentic Italian right
That's
there.
good pizza. Yeah.
And if any of you guys, I mean, Jaffe's had it before, but if any of you guys are ever over here, let's go get a slice.
That's very good pizza.
It looks like they used to have an arcade machine in there, but they do not have it anymore.
There's like a burned out rectangle on the wall.
Yeah. There's a couple of burned out rectangles on the floor. I think you dig the place, Brandon, because I know you're always talking about how you like eating pizza in a place that has a really, really large, wrinkled, sun-faded, hand-drawn pencil illustration of Al Pacino in the film Scarface.
I mean, that's not incorrect.
Yeah.
Just kind of like half duct taped up on the wall, just blasted by decades of sun.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, Esper, if you could put the Yelp review page for Giovanni's Pizza in this week's show notes, that'd be great. This is episode 256. 250 was the fake milestone episode. This is the real milestone episode.
Yeah.
Because this is the point where we've broken past the 255 number.
Oh,
and
that's
are
the kill
beyond
screen
video
joke.
games.
That's it.
Yeah, that's what it is. Wait,
yeah.
Wasn't I the one who I believe I suggested this? Yeah, thank you. Again,
Congratulations.
Thank you. I guess it's pretty
Amazing.
good, isn't it?
Yeah,
Congratulations,
it's great.
you won.
Yeah, it's not bad. Yeah, I get it.
We are celebrating that by doing a ranking episode. You've been asking for another ranking episode all year, and here near the tail end of it, we are finally doing that. We're doing a best arcade games episode where we're going to draft our favorites, discuss them a little bit, then rank them in a list, and by the end of this episode, we will have a canonical list of the 21 insert credit approved arcade games. What exactly that means is something that will be determined as we build the list itself.
Yeah, I think we gotta discuss it a little bit first. Yeah.
I think I have a couple of things to say about this. I don't see any reason why this episode necessarily has to be super duper long. I realize the name of the website that Brandon Brandon owns and operates into this podcast is derived from a reference to some arcade. It's the nomenclature in some arcade games that say insert credit instead of insert coin. There were a few of them. It's always fun to encounter one while spelunking through a MAME folder to encounter a game that says insert credit instead of insert coin. See if you can spot some. I would love to say let's do the top 20 arcade games that say insert credit instead of insert coin. However, that's a little bit too homeworkulous for me.
Yeah.
I think, so here's what I think philosophically, this ranking episode very well should be a little bit looser than any of the other ones, because their arcade game means so many things. I was sitting here thinking about this while installing flashing my BIOS on my Windows PC. Gotta love having a Windows PC that you work on 18 hours a day, because it's like an old hot rod, basically. So I was sitting here thinking about this, and I was like, Street Fighter, it's an arcade game. Mortal Kombat, no, that's a console game. For some reason, I don't know why. It's just there's Daytona USA, that's an arcade game. Sega Rally, that's a console game. Again, I'm not really sure why. There's a lot of these arcade games that they had console ports that kind of completed them philosophically as a thing, and then there's a lot of arcade games that had myriad console ports that completely fleshed them out that still are forever arcade games. So there are too many different types of arcade games, right, that are essential. Like, you could do a whole top 20 arcade racing games episode. You could do a whole top 20 arcade racing games made by Sega episode, Like, I mean, you could do that. I could name a real good order of 20 of them off the top of my head. You could do a top 20 top-down shooting games episode, right? There's just way too many of them. It's not only that, it's like there's a lineage, like a through line, like Galaga to Xevious to Ibara, right? There's all these different types of top-down scrolling shooting games. It's not the same as just a Super Nintendo or a Nintendo 64 or a Sony PlayStation. It's like you have this whole sphere that lived and, let's face it, sort of died. Like, are we comfortable saying that arcade games are kind of a dead format at this point, even though there are still thriving arcade games, like in a way that even like a Sega Genesis single player action adventure video game is not a dead format, because console single player games still kind of live on as a primary form of entertainment.
I mean, I would say arcade games I wouldn't say they're dead. I'd say they're kind of like not exactly a shambling corpse, but they're a new arcade coming.
Like a sunsetted format.
Yeah, they're sunsetted, but certainly not gone. It's like there's still new arcade games that come out.
De-essentialized.
Well, I think arcade games have been whittled to their core, which is just public social entertainment. So like I think the notion of an arcade game as being innovative video games that we look at for like game design lessons or like that's done. But I think that the arcade still exists for what it really always was for, which is just feeding money to machines and having a good time.
The social gaming space. So it's like there was a point in history after which suddenly we stopped comparing home video games to arcade games, right? So it was such an essential thing for early video game magazines, for example, to comment on just how close this NES port of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the arcade game, gets to the arcade original, right? Which was not usually, in most cases, not very close, right? But it's like that was like one of the most common metrics for quote unquote reviewing a video game, for informing someone's purchase, was telling them how close it was to the arcade original. And that was one of the bullet points where they boast about the closeness to the arcade original on the back of a game box. And it's like past a certain point, we lost that particular aspect of for better or worse, of video game culture, where that was no longer one of the marquee talking points in talking about a video game. And I think that's kind of a weird little interesting thing unique to arcade games. But putting all that aside, I was going to say there are still arcades, and arcades in Japan, like when Jappy said the arcade in your youth that you most frequented, I was going to make a great joke about how I didn't really feel like an adult till I was about 33. So the most frequented arcade in my youth would have been Hirose Entertainment Yard, or HEY, or Hey, a Taito-owned arcade in Akihabara, Tokyo, Japan, which is still around, even though the Club Sega in Akihabara just closed 1 week ago. Did you all know about this?
Yeah.
The famous Akihabara Club Sega is closed
and
now.
it wasn't even Sega anymore. It was like whatever that other
It was a
thing.
Gigo.
Yeah, Gigo.
Well, it's Sega Gigo. Yeah, so it was still owned by Sega, but it didn't have that really photogenic Sega sign on the outside of it anymore. It's like it was Gigo for a short time before it was Gigon, right? So it's if I can just say, to speak ill of the dead here, that was never nearly my favorite arcade in Akihabara. It was Hey all the way. I know Brandon probably feels the same way, right? You like Hey, don't you?
Definitely.
You like Hey. Hey's always got the vintage Darius machine, the vintage Ninja Warriors machine. They've got a beautiful collection of classic games. It's very clean, smells less like cigarettes than similar arcades do, despite no decrease in the heftiness of the smoke in the air. They got a lot of air purifiers. It's just overall a chill place. Good little drink zone. You got your gambling games upstairs. I mean, obviously, like if we were going to talk about top 20 best arcade games of all time, part of me feels like one of those Three Kingdoms card games is maybe on there.
Is that your first nomination, Tim?
No. Here's the thing. No, I don't have experience with this stuff. One of those Sega or Taito or Namco horse race games that you're required to have cards for. Yeah. You buy a bunch of cards. One of those is probably up there. Like, it's got to be one of those Sega Mahjong games has got to be in the top 20 best arcade games of all time. But I don't have enough bodily experience with this stuff to comment on it. So it's
we're insert credit. We're not the arcade game authorities. We're just insert credit.
Well, no. This is just me stating up front, I really wish I did.
Yeah.
I really,
Sure.
I lived in Japan all that time. Why didn't I realize how totally awesome those Three Kingdoms, those horse racing and those mahjong games were, because they are, like, I mean, I would look at them and be like, that's a cool looking game, dude.
Yeah, I played what is it, Derby Stallion Club? Is that the name of the
Derby Stallion's definitely one.
Yeah, there's a Derby Stallion Club. Yeah,
I tried to take advantage of it when I went and covered an arcade show as a journalist, and I had a bunch of time. I was like, I'm never gonna pay for this, so I'm just gonna keep raising my horse here. And
it's so chill, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, if you imagine if you lived in a 100% walkable city, and you with a city with a 100 walk score or whatever, and you were able to just pop into an arcade on your way to the grocery store every night, on your way home from work, and just and there's one of those machines in there, and you got a little card in your wallet that's represents your horse, right? That's got to be up there. So it's like, I feel personally, this is why I think this list can be loose, is because I'm not the expert that I wish I was, and that I by all rights, as a professional video game opinion haver, I just wish I were more of an arcade game expert than I am. However, I have played hundreds, possibly over 1,000 arcade games in my life, and I think I can pick 7 or 8 of them. So that's my long extended preamble finished. Thank you.
I was going to suggest that, because we could have done this in terms of like most important versus our favorite, and I think we should tend toward our favorite.
Forget that most important trash.
Yeah, so...
That's a loser's gambit, I think.
I'm doing whatever I want.
Yeah. And Frank will do whatever he wants.
Yeah, do whatever you feel like, man.
Yeah, well, Frank's predicated his whole brand on video game history, so I'm not going to begrudge him that. Tim, would you like to go first this time?
I mean, I could. You want me to? You want me to go first?
Yeah, why not?
I'm going to talk about this game that there's a game I discovered at California Arcade Extreme Expo, and it inspired me a great deal. And I don't know if I've ever told this story before, though it was tucked away in the corner. And I went over and I looked at it and I'm like, this looks a little weird. And then I called over my buddies, and we must have spent 2-3 hours playing it. It's this game called Dog Patch. That's a joke.
I knew you were going to do it. I knew it. That's okay.
It's this game called Dog Patch. No, I'm just kidding, Brandon. You're probably going to bring that one up, aren't you?
Nah.
Aren't you?
It's not.
Okay.
It's on my list of honorable mentions is where it is, but
okay, we'll get to that. I'm just kidding about Dog Patch. Though I will say a game that I did walk up to and play at California Arcade Extreme Expo, which was also one of my favorite games to play at the likes of Anthony's Pizza as a youth. None other than, and I've mentioned this every single time we've ever mentioned arcade games, and I kind of feel like every time I walk into the convenience store near my house, there's these 2 dudes in there, and they're talking about the Knicks. Every single time that I go into this convenience store, every single time. Like, I went in there just yesterday, and the one guy says to the other, "Oh, don't even get me started about the Knicks," he says, right? And I'm like, I've heard him say that exact same thing, with identical timing to my entering this convenience store, 3 times in the past.
He's an NPC.
Right? Yeah, well, I was thinking he's an NPC, but then I realized, ain't we all an NPC? Who tuning into this podcast, dropping the needle in the middle of the podcast, does not hear us for NPCs? So someone's about to hear me for an NPC, something I bring up regularly whenever we talk about arcade games. And I just want to say that Outrun is going to win. I'm not going to bring up Outrun yet. Outrun's number 1. I'm just, spoiling the ending for everybody. If Outrun's not number 1, I'm going to buy a hat and eat it. Though I'm just going to say Asteroids Deluxe, dude. I love Asteroids Deluxe, and I walked up to it at California Arcade Extreme Expo, where it was located very close to, a machine of it was located very close to Dog Patch. And while Brandon was playing Dog Patch in his legendary Dog Patch play session, I was sitting there alone playing Asteroids Deluxe, and still loving every millisecond of it. 30-some years after its original release, just a perfect video game. It is a 100% perfect video game. There's nothing wrong with it at all. That vector display, this is what I've brought up every time I've ever mentioned Asteroids Deluxe. That vector display, dude, it's what is that, how many frames per second is that, Frank?
I think it's 3 million.
3 million? Yeah, I've asked Frank this before. Yeah, it's how many
our display still can't replicate. Well, I mean, we barely replicate what a CRT looks like, but it's going to be a real long time till we are willing to brave the brightness of a vector display.
Yeah, that stuff will burn your goddarn eyeballs.
Yeah, it'll burn your TV. You won't have a TV anymore.
Yeah, it'll roast the heck out of your TV. So it's, I mean, I've got one of these OLEDs, right? And it's like, I think that makes it even worse, right? I mean, I'm sure you could burn some big old white, just full power white pixels, just burning holes. Like, did you know there's a Mr. Core for Space War, Frank? Say that's more NPC talk. It doesn't really look exactly the right, they try to get the effect. It's, again, more NPC talk. Asteroids Deluxe, if you have never played a real Asteroids Deluxe machine or a real just, any game with the vector graphics, I would say Asteroids Deluxe is the king of that aesthetic.
I don't know.
You don't know?
I think Tempest is...
yeah, Tempest is pretty
Tempest
good.
is a better game.
I prefer Tempest, and
It is not neither of these are my favorite vector game.
Tempest also has the 3D aspect, which I feel like is
yeah, I don't know. It's
intrinsic to the vector.
It's cool.
Vector experience, yeah.
But that Asteroids Deluxe is beautiful. It's beautiful to just see the objects moving that smoothly. Tempest is a little fireworksy, in my opinion. It's a little too popping off.
Well, we're not arguing the two against each other until Tempest is nominated, right? Like I'm trying to set the rules here, right? So
yeah,
okay,
that's correct.
Pocket Tempest, because I will argue for Tempest, but someone's got to nominate it.
I'm just saying, I would argue against Tempest if it were nominated, because I think Tempest 2000 on the Jaguar is the best Tempest.
Yeah,
that's fair.
It is.
In fact, Frank, why don't you take the next game?
Well, I'm not nominating Tempest, but sure.
I'll throw one out there.
All right, what do I got?
Is there another Jeff Minter game you want to bring up?
There is not, in fact. All right, God, half of my list is also stuff I played at California Extreme.
Oh, excellent.
Almost none of mine are, so we'll be okay.
Great. So I kind of lean sometimes toward an experience one can only have on an arcade cabinet.
Yeah.
It's a good way to go.
Certainly.
And so, sorry, I got to look up the actual name of this.
Oh, while you're looking that up, I just want to say that
I got it.
The vector graphics, that's an experience you can only have on these cabinets.
That's actually true. That's true. I'll give you that.
I'm all for this too.
Or the Vectrex.
Vectrex sucks, Brandon. You know it.
Yeah, it's not as good. But...
So I'm going to nominate from California Extreme, only on the original cabinet, Irritating Maze.
Oh.
So
yeah, it's a good one.
So this is a trackball game that is, well, it's based on, someone fill me in, like it's a Japanese game show, right? The Irritating Stick or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Uchan Nanchan no Irabo. Yeah. There's a PS1 version as well that I played recently for a thing.
Which is nowhere near as good as this.
No, not at all, no.
But the idea is that you have a trackball and you have a little sort of, well, I guess in the Japanese game show, you kind of like put in a little jousting pole or something.
Yeah, they were literally holding a pole that they literally got electric shocked if they touched the side.
Cool. So the arcade version, you are playing as a character putting a pole in the thing or whatever, but realistically, you've got this sort of little puck in a maze full of traps and moving objects and things that you have to, as quickly as you can, navigate through the corridors just with a trackball and not touch anything. And like the frame you touch something, there's a loud buzzing sound, the lights flicker, and it like puffs air in your face that smells wonderfully of hot electronics.
Yeah, prepackaged air from the year 1986, it feels like.
Yeah.
It's so stale.
Yeah, I love it.
It's really good. I mean, the game itself is really fun. I have yet to, no, I did beat it, the hard mode once.
Whoa.
But, yeah.
Beautiful old game.
Yeah, it's a good game.
That's an SNK game.
It is, and you can really only, like, it is a Neo Geo game. Fine. You could probably get a home,
one, right?
You could probably get a home trackball for that. I don't know. But, like, you really can't play this game without that cabinet that you're never going to find, which also has like a giant, beautiful CRT. It's like 30 inches or something. So beautiful.
Yeah, they really want you to be absorbed in that irritating maze. Yeah.
Yeah.
Heck of a game. It's on the Mister as well, but yeah, like you said, not the same.
Yep.
Not the same at all. The PS1 version was a neat showcase for the DualShock, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it was because it vibrated, and also there was an analog stick, and there's like a whole lot of float to the thing as you move it. It does a lot of like coasting and floating. However, that trackball is straight up wild.
Yeah, can't beat the trackball.
That's a heck of a way to play it. I played that game in Osaka once. Thank you.
I don't want to say better, but is it above or below Asteroids Deluxe?
It's above for me.
But for me,
Well, I mean, I would put Asteroids like at number 2 total, so you know where that is for me. We need not, Irritating Maze is all right, but Asteroids Deluxe is a game I've come back to for literally thousands of hours of my life.
I'm ranking it above
no.
because I think it is. I'm weighing it as an arcade game as opposed to a video game.
Right.
Oh, sure.
So that's what does it for me.
Yeah, I think that's a fair criterion for this particular experiment.
And our criteria changes second to second here.
Yeah.
And that's the point.
Yeah, go for it. Let's keep moving.
Brandon?
Okay. Well, I guess I'm maybe going in a different direction for everybody, but we're talking about pizza time over here when we get into my list. And I'm starting off with Ivan, Ironman Stewart's Super Off-Road.
Super Off-Road's a good one.
Which is a 4-player game where you got little tiny trucks and you go around a single screen track map.
Single screen, rotational controls, gas pedal.
Gas pedal. You use a little steering wheel. You got a boost button. Get that crazy nitro. Upgrade your car.
Big fan of steering wheels that you got to stand up for.
Yeah.
Which was a hallmark of this particular game.
And it's 4 players simultaneous, so there are 4 wheels. You choose what color car you want. Red, green, blue, and the other one. I don't remember what the other color is.
I thought there was only 3 cars.
Are there only 3 cars? Are there 3 cars or 4? Uh-oh. Let me see. Let me get it. Let's get a picture. No, there's a yellow guy.
It says up to 3 players, 4 in the NES version.
That's where I was confused. Yeah, okay. Well, it's 3.
Yeah,
I guess
arcade cabinet is like it's just 3 steering wheels. Red, yellow,
Yeah,
blue.
there's not a whole lot of room for the steering wheels. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Anyway, 3 players. My mistake. But yeah, it's simply a fun video game that you play in the arcade in its purest form. And so it's not especially special or fancy, but it has that pure, like, as soon as you start, you're playing the game kind of thing. And, like, the fun that you can have with it is being had right from the start. Like, it's just, you're in there, you're doing the fun times, and that's what it is. So
yeah, despite when it came out, it's very classic arcade game, right? Where it's just the mechanics and the feel of it is like 90% of it.
yeah, and
Yeah, it's quite good.
It's still fun to play now, despite coming out in 1989. It's definitely the only 80s game on my list, I think.
Oh, interesting.
I'm a very like mid-90s, early 2000s arcade game person. So, yeah, this is the oldest game on my list, actually, that I'm going to mention.
So another thing
that's wild.
about this arcade cabinet worth mentioning is the wheels on that cabinet. Man, you spin them at full speed.
Yeah.
And it'll keep going for about...
You can break your finger on that.
Well, you just walk away. It'll still be spinning in about 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Like, it just spins forever. It's amazing. It defies
That's
physics.
not an experience you can have at home, for sure.
No.
That makes it arcadey.
It was super fun to just, like, you'd spin the heck out of it, grab it to stop it, spin it the other way, grab it to stop it, and that was how you would play that game. You would just, like, rack that thing. You'd set it flying and then stop it, and it was like, didn't make any sense, but it felt great.
If anyone listening to this is particularly interested in trophy truck races, I would recommend you watch on YouTube. There's ample footage of the real Ivan Ironman Stewart in the 1993 Baja 1,000-mile race, driving a Toyota trophy truck at blazing speeds across very powdery red silt. And it's some beautiful, beautiful footage shot from a helicopter, if you're interested in that.
It's funny because I had no idea who that was for a long time. And like he endorsed this and it was supposed to give credence to the game, but I learned of his existence through playing this arcade game, basically.
I mean, there's probably a lot of dudes who didn't know who Tony Hawk was.
Yeah.
Until Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. Probably a huge number of dudes.
That's basically his entire identity right now.
Yeah, and that's how he got there.
Where are we ranking this game in our increasingly difficult to classify list?
I'd put it under the Irritating Stick.
Yeah, it's under Irritating Stick.
I love this game also, but yeah, I agree.
All right. Ivan Ironman Stewart's Super Off-Road is currently our number 2, which brings us back to the top of the order. 10.
So there's 3. So we got 3 on the list now. So, okay. I mean, it occurs to me that if it's like, I know we're not doing any kind of a strict list, so we're not going to want to do a little bit of like, oh, we can't over-represent this particular genre, right?
Or we can, whatever we want.
Or we could, yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. But it's like, it all comes down to how are you going to feel about it at the end, right? Is the thing. So it's, I'm wondering when is the time to bust out some of the old classic genres. Because, we're talking fighting games, we're talking shooters, we're talking racing games, and we're talking brawlers, right? Nobody bring up Outrun yet, please.
Well, I kind of have mine. My list is somewhat organized in terms of having at least one representative thing from each genre.
Oh, sure.
Oh, which reminds me that actually there is one older game on this list. Now that I think about it.
I've got like 40 games on this list over here that I was going to pick from based on how stuff was going.
Yeah.
And the stuff is not going exactly how I expected, which is fun. Or is it? It's going. It's reasonably. So I think you can't have a list of arcade games without having a licensed beat 'em up brawler.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm wondering what yours is going to be. I picked one, but
You picked one?
I deliberately did not choose any of these. So
You
I'm
deliberately
curious.
did not choose one. So I don't really want to choose one either because they're all quarter eaters. They're money eaters, these games.
They're fun though.
They're all the same game.
Unless you go to Boomers on Tuesday, you get free
That's right.
plays. I don't know what to tell you.
That's right. It's a $20 eater at that
The
time.
old Tuesday boomers. I love very few of these games. The ones that get championed a lot are never really that great. Like Dungeons & Dragons Tower of Doom, right? That's the one that guys like Bennett Foddy talk about, say it's the greatest one. It's like a genius video game. And it's like, why really? Because you can enter your initials and dial your character up later when you come back to the arcade. It's got sweet character designs. I don't know. So, I personally think Final Fight blows. Right?
Same.
I just don't think that's a good video game at all. It did not trick me as a child. The target audience. Never really liked Double Dragon. I sort of liked it.
I liked both of these games. They tricked me good.
Oh, I liked them both in their time. I don't like either.
Oh,
now.
sure. Looking back on them now, it's like, so I recently had a real good time playing a bunch of brawlers, including all of the great, quote unquote, great licensed ones. And I gotta say, and I'm hoping this is Frank's pick, because it would be real fun if we picked the same one. In terms of the graphics, the art, I'm just, basically I'm saying everything I have to say about it before I say the name of it.
It's
the
not
graphics,
the same then, if that's what you're basing it on, I promise.
Oh. Well, here it comes though. The graphics, the art, the out of left fieldness of the IP, the IP being branded, the fact that it is made by a particular storied Japanese video game developer, the beautiful pedigree of the character designs, the selections of colors, the richness of the pixel art, some of the best pixel art in video game history, just all of this stuff tied into the fact that it's not really a franchise I care about, combined with another franchise I don't really care about.
Oh, here we go.
I've got to say, it's Capcom's Aliens vs. Predator, dude.
Right.
Oh,
That game is just a phenomenally cool looking,
It's got good graphics.
cool feeling vibe of a video game with beautiful Street Fighter 3 grade Capcom pixel art.
You can get in the lifter thing, whatever that's called.
The power loader, yeah,
power loader.
yeah. Like it's the stupidest thing, and you're fighting these big old aliens and just punching them. You got a gun. The gun mechanics are good. I was thinking of the Punisher as well, which I also like. I guess brawlers with guns are the ones I like the most. Though it's just that Aliens versus Predators just happened upon it in an arcade in Chicago a couple of years back and just kind of played through it with a buddy. They had played through it at California Arcade Extreme, played through it on my Mister. It's just a good, loud, weird noise rock experience of a video game. And I wanted to give it to X-Men for that beautiful soundtrack, but no. And the fact that it has the two TVs together with the mirror, that ridiculous cabinet. Speaking of arcade-only experiences, I like that stupid Aliens versus Predator brawler.
where do you want to put it?
I don't know. kick it to the curb.
Tim, can you guess which one I was going to pick as a brawler if I picked any of them?
Can I do a quick 20 questions here? Was it a licensed brawler?
It was not.
Okay. Was it by Capcom?
It was not.
Was it by Konami?
No.
Forget it then. I don't know.
Okay. you would have gotten there eventually. I was going to choose Undercover Cops.
Oh, right. Undercover Cops is cool.
Yeah.
That's such a stupid name for that game. I love it.
It is, absolutely. They're undercover cops that are just killing everyone with whatever weapons they can find on the ground.
Yeah, it's just a comical.
My cover's blown.
Comical presence. I mean, I do love Undercover Cops sort of a lot. Yeah. I like anything Irem though, so that's just me.
Yeah.
Frank, you're up next.
Yeah, I'm trying to decide if I do the competing brawler. I only want one on this list, so I guess not. But I'll just say really quick that 6-player X-Men was mine.
Oh, was it?
Oh, yeah.
Man. Well, how about this? Let's put it to a vote. Let's do it co-op. I can go either way. Yeah.
Let me explain. So, 2 TV monitor cabinet with 6 players. That is extremely arcade only in terms of what it does. The soundtrack is nuts. And I really like that this is a game based on a television series that never made it past pilot.
Yeah.
I think that's cool.
Yeah, I guess that rules.
Yeah.
And that music, dude. The
music. So, I don't think it's a good video game, but I don't think any of these are. So
they're not. No. It's
experiences.
But it is a perfect arcade experience. Yes.
It's very interesting that there's such a storied genre and that there's constantly there's I feel like the conversation has just risen from the dead way too many times of, is the brawler dead? Can the brawler be saved? And it's like, no, the brawler was just money eating video game.
No on both counts.
Yeah, and
it's not dead and it can't be saved.
In recent years, there was stuff like, a big Ninja Turtles brawlery cabinet made for kids, and it works because you just kind of mash on the buttons because you're a little kid.
Yeah.
And the turtles do cool stuff.
I mean, that new game
I think it even had a giant button to mash that just was a special move like that.
Mm-hmm.
So, you can still make these games. They still work.
I think there are lessons that remain. There's a plethora of lessons which remain to be learned from brawlers.
Absolutely.
And for for indie game developers, I think trying to make a good brawler. I mean, okay, I'm going to admit I've tried to make a brawler in the past. I've by myself. I'm no artist, so you're never going to see any screenshots of it. I mean, I've experimented with little brawler systems. I think if you're an independent game developer and you want to do something a little bit different from what other independent game developers you see screenshots of or gifs of on Twitter, I think giving a brawler a shot and seeing what's a spin you can put on it, because you just kind of inject any interesting mechanic into there and it becomes a game that's much more thoughtful. So that's a thing.
There's room to explore.
Brandon, you like Panzer Bandit, right? Games like Panzer Bandit, that are console brawlers become a whole new thing. The brawler is still alive. It's called the Yakuza series, except not really anymore, because I guess they're doing RPG stuff.
I guess it's the Judgment series now or whatever.
It was alive.
Yeah, I like the combat and those judgments are just fine as well. It's just the brawler lives on. It's just it has to be one tiny aspect of a much bigger product. Instead of the Ninja Turtles, they just got Kiryu, who's his own Ninja Turtle now. He's back. Did you see this? They're bringing him back. Kiryu's back, so he's basically a Ninja Turtle now, being licensed out. So anyway, X-Men versus Alien versus Predator.
Whoa, the ultimate combo.
I am dead on 50-50. Frank has voted for X-Men, I assume.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay, so we need two more votes. What do we got?
I'll tell you what I'm willing to do. I'm willing to put them on the same line on the list. Alien versus Predator / X-Men.
No, one of them's got to kill the other. One of them's got to kill the other.
One's got to win.
Okay.
It's a tough one because I do think that Alien vs. Predator is a nicer looking game.
It's beautiful. One of the most beautiful.
X-Men is a better sounding game.
It's got that song.
The
Junk Factory, dude.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for me, the 6-player edges it out in an arcade list.
Yeah.
One of the only brawlers I ever played with people who were not my friends or family members.
Yeah, people just walk up.
People would show up.
And they're like, could I get in here? And I'm like, yeah, dude.
Yes.
It'll help me out if you do that.
Have you two played that Konami brawler that's clearly just built on top of X-Men, but it's like
Metamorphic Force?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that game. That's one of my favorite video game soundtracks of all time. Mutsuhiko Izumi did the soundtrack to that. I've got it all in a playlist on YouTube that I listen to sometimes.
Anyway, it sounds like X-Men 1 here, right?
Yeah, I think X-Men wins, yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
I guess there's also Mitsuhiko Izumi in there as well. So I guess we can give it to him. He did Junk Factory, I think. So
All right. Maybe this will be a top 20 list after all then. Brandon, you're next.
Wait, so was that Frank's turn?
That counts. I'm good with
Okay.
that. Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Well, then I have to do Capcom versus SNK2 Millionaire Fighting 2001.
CBS too.
So what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do that CVS 2, and even though CVS 2 you can play in the home, CVS 2 was such a in the gap years where fighting games were kind of dead, not all the way dead. CVS 2 was still being played, and people loved this game. The hardcore players were playing this game, and most of them abandoned it once Street Fighter 4 came out, or anything that was actually reviving the genre properly. But that game was just such a love letter swan song to fighting game arcade fans, and I played it a lot in the arcades. The arcade that I used to frequent after work at Game Developer Magazine all the time, and where I told that story of being beaten by, I believe, Justin Wong while he was looking the other direction and talking to his friend and never looking at the screen once, and completely destroying me.
That's great.
That was in Capcom vs. SNK2, and it's such as fighting games go, it's just emphasizing the fun part of rolling around and doing moves and making nonsense happen, and but not to the extent of Marvel vs. Capcom, where the numbers on the combos go incredibly high, and someone can but once they catch you, it's okay, this character's dead now, even though I have 70% health. They got me.
Mm-hmm.
It was in this nice spot where everything was fast and zippy and relatively understandable. It just was this kind of, I don't know, it was very fun. I loved it, and so that's on the list for me.
CVS 2 is cool. I will say that to this day, I occasionally in my head, as in maybe one out of 8 times, refer to when I have to go pick up a prescription or whatever, and time to go to CVS 1.
Yeah, dude.
That's all I've got for that. I think CVS 2 is a good, solid fighting game to kind of bang the gong and ring the bell of the fighting game genre.
Yeah.
One that's not too obvious a pick. I feel for example, again, not assuming this is going to be a one fighting game list, right? But it's Soul Calibur's not an arcade game, right? That's a Dreamcast game.
That's a Dreamcast game.
Controversial opinion. I don't know. Guilty Gear, that's a PlayStation 1 game, in my opinion, dude.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the arcade is, of course, essential to the experience that caused those games to strive and thrive or whatever. However, I think CVS 2 is a really good, because it's Capcom and it's SNK.
Yeah, you got your both worlds, and it never really got 100% perfect home port at any time, because never shipped on a console that had a default 6-button controller.
Yeah.
Many of the versions had certain caveats. They always had loading. It wasn't the lightning fast experience that it was in the arcade. And yeah, plus all those little custom intros where characters that might know each other across company lines would punch fists together or make jokes with each other. Love that stuff.
Yeah, that's the good stuff.
It's just a whole lot of video gamishness, and it doesn't need a whole Smash Bros. Sized toolbox or even a Marvel vs. Capcom sized toy box to communicate love of video games and love of people hanging out playing video games.
Yeah,
it's a good, cool one.
Where do we put it?
Boy, I don't know. The ranking is starting to become difficult now.
Yeah,
it's I would personally put it at the top, but I don't know if that's where it should be. If that makes sense. I want to play it the most right now of the games on the list, but does that mean it's number one? Not necessarily. So I would either put it at the top or below Asteroids.
Wow.
Yeah, excellent. Interesting.
But you can understand where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
It does require other people to be maximally playable, whereas Irritating Maze and Asteroids do not. And X-Men does as well, and so does. So we've got 3 multiplayer games here, 3 ostensibly multiplayer games on the list. One of them being versus
Although you can play the... I have had good times with the single-player story mode as well.
Yeah, that is true.
Unlocking... you can unlock Akuma, actually, in the arcade, or Shin Akuma, or whoever. So sometimes you would get to, like, an arcade where nobody had unlocked all the characters, and it's like, what's the deal with this? Because there were like per cabinet unlockables. It was ridiculous.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a pretty good game.
I like Below Asteroids. Does everybody else like Below Asteroids?
Maybe I don't anymore.
Okay.
Just put one above Asteroids. Just do
One
it.
above
All right,
Asteroids. Yeah, let's do that.
I don't need this list to tell me Asteroids is better than all of them. I'm a world-renowned...
Finish that sentence.
I'm a world-renowned opinion wielder about video games. So I know that I don't need other critics to agree with me. I'm trying to demonstrate the maturity that a lot of the gamers in the world could try to have. Is what I'm trying to be an
Very
example
nice.
here. You see,
That's admirable.
so I don't need Asteroids to be up at the top of this list for me to know that it's my favorite.
Yeah.
So we're on to another game, I suppose.
Yes.
Correct.
So I mean, okay, we're talking about there's different types of arcade games. So we've got a fighting game now. I would. Here's where I would throw out my fighting game, which is the Rumblefish 2.
It's on my list.
Yeah, it's coming out in like 2 months, man. It's going to be on Steam. And also, when was
Yeah,
the
I'm
last time
excited.
anybody played it in an arcade? There's like one arcade probably on Earth
Yeah,
you
you
can
know,
play it at.
the funny thing about Rumblefish 2, so Rumblefish 2 is an Adamus Wave game by Dimps, and
It sure is.
they got the rights back, and now they're going to release it. But the place that I played Rumblefish 2 the most was in Vincent Diamante's house, because he had an Adamus Wave and a Super Gun, which he bought specifically to play Rumblefish 2, which I played once in the arcade, and then about 5 million times after that at Vince's house.
You played it at Nakano Broadway TRF.
I played it at Nakano Broadway TRF. Okay, that's true. Okay, I played it 2 or 3 times. 'Cause
Tokyo
I played
Ranking Fighters.
I played it once or twice in one of those arcades in Los Angeles, maybe Japan Video Arcade, and then I did play it at TRF also. I was just at TRF 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, it still thrives, huh?
Yeah, they still got the
They
stuff.
got their little YouTube feed and everything's still going. So I'm not going to bring up... I was going to say... I mentioned Rumblefish 2. I'm not going to say Rumblefish 2. However, I will be playing Rumblefish 2 online in a couple of weeks, as it were. 8 weeks from now. So we've got a fighting game. We've got a brawler. We've got a wacky arcade-only experience. We've got 2 wacky arcade-only experiences. We've got a crusty old single-screen classic, Asteroids Deluxe. What other arcade game genres are there? Somebody remind me.
Scrolling shooters.
Scrolling shooters. Oh, I remember those.
Music rhythm.
Puzzle.
Pinball. That game where you arm wrestle a guy.
Pinball does not enter into... That's a different list, I would say.
Yeah. I think that's actually good. It's good to know that we're completely writing out pinball.
Yeah, I would say arcade video games. Pinball is a whole other category.
Yeah, I mean, I want to bring up like a music game. Again, I'm just like, I'm not cool enough to have played poppin' music in the arcade.
If you want to wait, I'll do the music game, because I've got one that I definitely want on there.
Oh,
I've
good.
played poppin' music a couple of times, but not enough. Are you going to bring up one of those bootleg DDRs? Is that going to be it?
No, it's not. It's not going to be Pump It Up
Those bootleg DDRs are cool.
or Audition.
Pump It Up or Step to the Beat. I'm just making up fake DDR. We should. What you should try to do is make up a fake knockoff, like Taiwanese knockoff DDR game,
Yeah, maybe I should.
and then just seamlessly pass it off. Just Step to the Beat.
Rance Devolution.
Oh God, I love it. Anyway, so I suppose I should probably flop one of these out.
Yeah.
There's one that you could do, so I don't have to. If you want to do a some sort of a side-on versus action game where you can get pickups and have unique maps and
Are
stuff
you
like
talking about Outfoxies?
that. Yeah.
You know what? Outfoxies is legit. Let's do Outfoxies.
Oh, that was my next one, but go for it. Sure. Yeah. All of us want to do Outfoxies.
Was it
Yeah.
really?
Let's do it. Let's all just do this one together then, because
All
it is
right.
a multiplayer game. Outfoxies by the team that made Rolling Thunder. Some of the great minds behind the Rolling Thunder series. Rolling Thunder, the game where you can duck behind cover and shoot very slow-moving bullets. Everybody's favorite activities in old video games. And, the likes of which inspired games such as NES classics like Codename Viper. Was it Codename Viper?
Project
Yeah.
Codename Viper, yeah.
Yeah, codename Project Viper. Not Cobra Triangle. That's a boat racing game. Not Vice Project Doom. That's a Mega Man like. It's a codename Viper.
Vice Project Doom is not a Mega Man like.
Wait, yeah, I guess not. It's a Castlevania like, Low G-Man like, Mega Man like, G.I. Joe like.
Yeah, somehow I thought Project.
You got the driving, you got the first person stuff. Come on.
Yeah, it's a Golgo 13 like.
Yeah,
Golgo 13 like, Mega Man like, Legend of Kage like.
It's way more melee.
Demon Sword like.
So you can get some guns.
Kickmaster like.
Yeah, yeah, it's one of those. Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those.
It's one of those skinny guy jumps around, hugs walls games.
Low G-Man like, Shatterhand like. It's one of those games that makes you stop and go. Like Kabuki Quantum Fight. It makes you go. The NES actually had some legit, somewhat undescribably cool games. On it. We can get to that some other time though. Have we ever done an NES ranking episode?
I don't think so.
No.
But remember, I wanted to do that thing where we ranked the best games from every genre and then every console, and then rank them all against each other to find out what the best game of all time is. But that's stupid.
And then I did the math, and that would take 30 years.
Yeah, well,
I gave Brandon a list of NES games because he once asked me what NES games was good, and I gave them to him. He should just play all of those, and then we do a podcast about that list.
Just play all those skinny dude games. Just play all the Batmans and the Kickmasters is. Yeah.
I think Frank would agree with my list as well. The list I gave Brandon. I'll type it up from scratch later here in the Discord, and then we'll just do an NES episode that's just that list. I think that would be
I like that idea.
I have determined the scientifically, formulaically balanced, perfect insert credit top 20 NES games list. And if Brandon just plays 15 minutes of all of them, he'll see. At any rate, we're doing Outfoxies. It's got that Rolling Thunder pedigree. Outfoxies did it pave the way for Super Smash Bros., a game that is, we don't have to talk smack or trash about Super Smash Bros. Here in order to say that Outfoxies is better.
We've done that enough.
Outfoxies it's not, is it better? Well, yes. Is it trying to do the same thing? Not exactly. Is it trying to do enough of the same thing that we can compare them? Why not? What is the same thing that I perceive here? Well, they're side scrollers and they've got platforms. It's a versus action platform game with some pickups and some items.
And it's map by map. Like you're in one map against another person.
One of the characters is a monkey. There is an ape is one of the characters, right?
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean,
he's got a top hat or whatever he's got.
Outfoxies is a heck of a game that has inspired me on so many levels for so much of my life. Yet I've somehow failed at every single business endeavor into which I've entered that attempted to capitalize on my expertise regarding or love of Outfoxies. We tried to make a game called Grab Jackers once. That we had some backing. We're unable to ever really get the project off the ground. Years later, Among Us had become the hottest game ever. And, I had some people reapproach me about making Grab Jackers, and I was like, y'all should have seen it, It was like, I just kept thinking, what if there was Outfoxies, except with some subterfuge and some hidden information, and, ended up with all these you just get beautiful game design concepts just spring forth like Texas tea,
That's actually what I was going to say about this game. It's a game without that much to it, but it also has a lot to it, because it's really just 1v1. You can get weapons that are randomly dropped there, and sometimes not randomly dropped in predictable locations. There's some like traps and things, and it's all over this map that you can learn. And as you play it, you're just like, oh, what if I did this, or what if this thing was here? Like the first thing you think is, what if it was 4 players, or what if it was teams, or whatever. And it's just like, there's so much to it.
Not all of the ends meet. Not all of the mechanics are super satisfying. The controls aren't perfect. There's a lot of unfinishedness to it. It's like, imagine you go to an estate sale for a billionaire game designer, as if such a thing existed, has just passed away, and he's got a notebook, and you buy this old notebook and you pry the lock off, and like it's 100 pages and 80 of them are blank, but the 20 that have writing on them are like, ooh. That's basically what Outfoxies is.
Yeah.
It's like all these secret ideas that only I can see. It makes you it's one of the most game designery video games, and the fact that it's an arcade game is quite frankly beautiful.
Well, and it's a fighting game that Frank wants to play, which is not a thing.
That puts it above Capcom versus SNK.
It does for me, sure, but it's like I'm much more interested in like running around an environment, jumping on stuff, sneaking around, like popping off shots from behind cover, stuff like that. It is it's basically Rolling Thunder as a competitive fighting game on giant weird maps that
scale in and out, like
that scale, and not only do they scale, they have environmental weird stuff to do. You can like shoot down like a chandelier or something onto people.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of environmental nonsense. It's weird. I mean, there's the ape in the top hat or whatever. I don't even remember the other characters, but it's just weird.
Guy in a wheelchair.
Guy in a wheelchair, that's true.
There's 100 million little half-baked esports ideas in there. There's MOBA stuff. There's Counter-Strike stuff. There's a whole lot of really weird, nascent, like the zygotes of a million profitable Overwatchian genres are just lurking in this Outfoxies game. And it's really, really impressive and special. I mean, it's one of those games that you can boot up on MAME, and if you've got the controllers configured, you and your buddies can have a real legit time. The fact that
in fact, that's the only way you can play this game.
It's the only way you can play it now, yeah. It is consistently passed over whenever the likes of Namco pump out another way too expensive museum collection with Pac-Man and Miss Pac-Man on it again.
Oh, I've tried, my friends.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, dude. Yeah, dude. So it's like, it's just... I mean, it's a platforming, shooting, fighting game. It's a deathmatch that's not an FPS. It's so many beautiful ideas. Today, you can play Samurai Gun, you can play Towerfall, you can play Nidhogg, right? These games are all made by people who played Outfoxies. Video Ball is made by people who played and loved Outfoxies, right? So it's like there's so much in there still to be extracted.
The fact that all three of you wanted to talk about this game means top of the list for me.
Yeah, I would say it's number one for now. Yeah,
I just have one other thing to say about it because I knew that it was going to come up, and I had Elevator Action Returns in my thing here just in case.
Love Elevator Action Returns.
And Elevator Action Returns is like
that's a Saturn game.
It's a Saturn game. It's tighter,
in my opinion. Yeah,
and the action is better, the graphics are better, and the music is better, and it's got characters named Jad the Taff and whatever.
Jad the Taff, yeah.
But
love him.
Elevator Action Returns is a game that it just exists by itself. I look at it and I'm like, there it is. That's great. And then Outfoxies is a game that makes me want to make video games, which Elevator Action Returns does not, because Elevator Action Returns is already made and finished. And Outfoxies is like, what if?
Elevator Action Returns is a flash in the pan. Outfoxies is a seasoned cast iron skillet of a video game.
It is the pan, yes.
Yeah, it's like cook something, buddy. To play it is to cook.
Frank?
Yes. Oh, is it my turn? Yes. I'm going to do a fairly obvious one because I really just like this as an arcade game specifically.
Pac-Man.
Nope. Take your pick of which one you want to do, but just a generic NBA Jam.
Yeah.
Puts up a brick.
Tournament edition.
He's on fire.
I'm putting this out here because this is not a video game. This is arcade theater. Like there's no game happening here. Like you are just a slave to the logic of this game, and you have a good time anyway, and you keep playing it. Like this game is designed to consistently rubber band every player so that it's always a tight game and is basically a random outcome who actually wins in a match of NBA Jam.
The game's flat out nonsense. Yeah.
It's nonsense that I want to play right now with all of you.
I said earlier that god darn Mortal Kombat's not an arcade game, it's a console game, even though I have these brilliant memories of Mortal Kombat 2 in the arcades. NBA Jam, which I played most of at home on the Super Nintendo, mostly through Tournament Edition, where I was able to beat my brother and his best friend 1 against 2. I was able to throttle them every time.
And these home versions do not have the rubber band logic, I want to say.
Yeah, they don't. Yeah. They don't, which is how I'm able to win 213-2 or like these ridiculous scores because I mastered that stupid game. I played Mortal Kombat mostly in the arcade, yet considered a console game. I played NBA Jam mostly at home, but dude, that's such an arcade game. Like all the arcade experiences I had with it were like, I played it mostly at the Putt Putt in Indianapolis, Indiana, where they had a machine and kids would be gathered around screaming like constantly. You had to wait to play it, right? and you're just standing back, seeing whatever you can see, yelling as much as you can. It was beautiful.
It's funny that
Beautiful game.
you even here in the year 2022, when you say you played it on Super Nintendo, I'm like, oh yeah, it did come out there. Because to me, NBA Jam is like such a Sega Genesis game.
Oh, the Sega Genesis version blows though, dude.
It's not the best version, but it was just like everywhere.
Horrible music. The announcer calls your pump fake every time you tap the button. Pump fake, pump fake, pump fake. He says it like way too much. You should say it maybe 1/20th as often. It's like sometimes you just do a pump fake, you know, you don't need to have the announcer yell about it. He's not going to be that excited.
Yeah.
The music was so bad.
Anyway, this should definitely be on here. It's true. And the basketball being on fire, and it's like people have been updating, similar to Tecmo Bowl 3 or whatever. People have been updating NBA Jam with new tournament stats forever.
It's beautiful.
Just for fun. It's great.
Unfortunately, they've mostly been doing the home versions, but I think I've started to finally see the beginning of arcade hacking.
Oh, good.
So we're getting there.
In terms of essential arcade experiences, big CRT, big cabinet, the luxuriously basketball court wide platform for the joysticks.
You ever play the one with the two monitors? That's the stuff.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely.
I never did.
So that's what they had at the putt. So it's man, okay, so essentially the reason why I would go on to say this is double essentially an arcade game is they tried to bring it back a couple of times. You ever notice this?
Oh yeah.
On the Nintendo Wii and the PlayStation 3, and they just ruined it.
Yeah, they just couldn't figure it out.
There's like a layup system for like passing to your computer controlled buddy so that he can do a layup. And that's like what they lean on. Where's the slams and the jams? They cut down on the tackles because first of all, it's hilarious to just knock a dude down, you know, to bring that arch rivals style of basketball into a game that looks more like a sort of a simulation. Nobody really, you know, you have to kind of squint a little bit before you notice it's only 2-on-2, right? So it's like they can't recapture it. It's a name that lurks, right? But we can't recapture it in a modern form. It just all attempts to recapture it in the modern era have failed.
It stays in the arcade.
Right. It stays in the arcade. Kind of like Pac-Man never really became a good 3D platformer mascot, right?
I think it's just people don't understand.
They don't know.
Made it appealing, and they're trying to make it a video game as opposed to just making NBA Jam.
It is the absence of simulator features. That is the game.
Exactly, and it's a combination of that and the midway thing of the time, which is just crank everything up to 11, right? Like in this case, it wasn't violence; it was the slam dunks and the hoops on fire and stuff like that.
I'd spend all my time on like animations that are specific to the players, like doing stupid stuff, just like make them interact with each other in dumb ways. I don't know. I'd spend time on like the juice and the zazz rather than trying to make it systemsy.
Yeah, the NBA version of fatalities.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah.
So I would say NBA Jam definitely. NFL Blitz, meanwhile, not the best. Like, can we just say right now, put it to bed?
Yep.
No NFL Blitz on this Litz.
Where do we put Jam on this slam?
Oh man,
I'd put it under Outfoxies.
I think that's fine with me.
I'm good with that. Yeah.
We've got a nice mix of Western and Eastern games on here.
If I get to take credit for the Outfoxies, if we take equal credit, I got the top 3 right now.
Yeah, you do.
Nice.
Congratulations.
Frank's the king of the arcade right now. Brandon, it's your turn to pick.
Well, I don't plan on having things at the top of the list necessarily, so I'm gonna continue filling out the middle. And I'm doing a rhythm game because we might as well get started on that. So
Beatmania 2DX.
I really enjoy.
I'm just guessing.
Going to Round 1 Arcade. Round 1 is an Osaka-based arcade concern that has editions in these United States as well.
They've got one in Town East Square Mall in Wichita, Kansas.
There you go. There's one in Concord, California, which I like to go to.
Love that one in Concord.
And
I used to go there.
And it's a great arcade experience because they've also got bowling. They also have karaoke. They got $2 pints of Kirin. Not that you'd care about that, Tim, but it's more the idea of having a cheap fun time. Like you can get that and a big steaming plate of steak cut fries for $5. Like,
Yeah, I love them big fries. Last time I was at one of them, they had let's just pause for a moment to talk about how nice Round One is as an institution. If you have one, go check it out. Dave and Buster's, I hardly know hers, right?
Yeah,
so
Dave and
it's
Busted, more like.
Yeah, more like Dave and Busted, right? So it's all at that Round One where the last time I went, they had all the latest Initial D, you know.
Yeah, they always got the latest Initial D. They got whatever Gunslinger Stratos.
They got the gumption to ship over Gunslinger Stratos. Love Gunslinger Stratos. That game's legit cool. So I played the heck out of that when I was in Japan last.
So they always bring over the newest Japanese arcade games. Sometimes they're not even officially released in the US, and sometimes they never will be, but you can play them at Round One. And that used to be a really difficult thing to achieve, and it was like Arcade Infinity in Los Angeles that was doing that kind of thing, and it had a big community around it. Round One, less of a community, but they do have the games. And anyway, I played a bunch of the rhythm games as they come in over there, and the one that I have enjoyed the most is not the big washing machine looking deal. It is Groove Coaster.
Groove Coaster.
Groove Coaster.
All right.
Is and the reason I choose Groove Coaster is because you've got these dials and you jag them back and forth and you twist them and all this kind of thing. But the music and the actions that you undertake, they really feel connected, and it feels like you're doing something, and it's almost embarrassing to admit, but like when I get stuff right, I kind of feel cool. Like I feel like I'm doing something, like I'm playing an instrument, or I'm being a DJ, or I'm doing whatever.
Well,
and
I don't think that is something to be embarrassed about, because that's the point.
Oh, it's the point. Yeah, of course. It's just
you're not above you're not above joy, Brandon.
That's why it's embarrassing, because I generally abstain from having a good time.
From joy,
you just have a good time.
But I play Groove Coaster and I have a good time. You can plug your headphones in the loud arcade. Your own
they
headphones.
want you to plug your headphones in. Yeah.
You can save your.
Well, that's a Taito thing in general. Is plugging your headphones into an arcade cabinet.
Continue with your Nesca or whatever.
Yeah.
And, it's like to see Toby Fox remixes on there, it kind of makes me feel, even though it's not like he and I are bros or anything, it kind of makes me feel like we, the insert credit people of the world, have.
Yeah, it's like he went to my school.
It's like he's my older brother has entered the arcade industry somehow. It feels nice. And also, I played Groove Coaster on the Switch, and it was just like, this isn't right. Like I need the controller in order for this to be as fun as I want it to be. And so it truly was.
What I find interesting about that is that I think of it as an iPad game, because that's where I first played it and where it first came out.
It came out there first, yeah.
That is true. It is, yeah.
But
I think of it as a Nintendo DS game because it's so spiritually similar to Space Invaders Extreme.
Sure.
Yeah.
Because it borrows so much aesthetically and spiritually from that. But I do think as far as like the modern Round One experience goes, where they also have the giant Flappy Bird, right?
Yeah.
They
got the big Flappy Bird.
There.
They got the big Space
I want to know
Invaders.
more about that stuff. I gotta get into that stuff.
Yeah, go up to Concord, California.
I mean, what is more insert credit right now than checking out the arcade?
Check out the big Flappy
go
Bird.
and play the Flappy Bird, play the Fruit Ninja,
Yeah.
I've played that big Fruit Ninja.
Play the brand new Batman that
I think it's like 5 years old now, but
yeah. Well, no, there was one that's only, I think, 1 year before the pandemic. So it's like 3 years old.
Brand new Batman.
Pretty good.
3-year-old Batman.
Yeah. So
that's
anyway,
Raw Thrills, I believe. Yeah.
It is. Yeah. So Groove Coaster, I agree that it started elsewhere. And it has vibes of other things, but once you've played it in the arcade, then it's like, oh yeah, this is an arcade game.
It is a Taito arcade game you can plug your headphones into. It don't get more arcade gamey than that, to be perfectly honest. So I mean, like, they've got those Darius Burst Chronicle Saviors and whatever. They've got arcade versions of those now too, right? Where a lot of those were just like PSP or PS Vita first. I'm not really sure of the lineage of the modern Darius games. I mean to look into it. I've got the newer Darius on my PC,
but started to get confusing with the Dariuses. So
it's like I thought I knew Darius. And it turns out, what do I know? I mean, I was just going to say, can we just have a dishonorable mention for a minute? I love the game The Ninja Warriors again, and the Ninja Warriors again,
yes.
For the Nintendo Switch and all the modern consoles, the newer re-remake of Ninja Warriors. I do not like the original Ninja Warriors arcade game.
I don't either.
I just don't like it.
I like that theme song, but that's it.
Yeah, Daddy
Where do we
Monk.
want to put Groove Coaster?
Gruko.
Gruko.
I'm tempted to put it up high just to get this a little more modern. It'll make me feel younger.
Put it up over or under Irritating Maze? That's the question.
God. Above.
Oh, why
What
not?
about
Yeah.
Irritating Maze for me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it can stand in for, because, basically what Groove Coaster gives us hope for is that it is...
Arcades will never die.
Arcades will never die, number one. Number two, it is what Space Invaders became, basically. Right?
Yeah.
For somehow the Space Invaders DNA continues to this day. We don't need to bring up Space Invaders again on this list. That's
You
fun.
can play as a Space Invader in Groove Coaster, so...
You sure can. Yeah, so it's canon. Space Invaders is the original cover-based shooter, according to Cliffy B. Though it's also, we don't. I mean, it's nice to say we got a Taito game you can plug headphones into that's also somewhat new and is developed by the people who made Alundra for the Sony PlayStation 1. So it's like all of that stuff together just makes me feel like that's a fun one to call out for a high up spot on the list.
Yeah, good pick. Tim,
Mhm.
it's your game.
Okay, we're getting like when you say arcade to me, the very first thing that comes to mind, and I cannot like the god darn North Pole to the compass of my brain immediately turns north. And when you mention north for the arcade,
Yeah.
and it's like I was going to wait until the bottom 10 of this list, but I have to go to the bathroom. And I figure it's best to do one of these now before we get to the bottom 10 so that I will be able to pull myself back in this direction later. When you say arcade to me, my brain's compass needle points north, where by north I mean it points south, because south is the letter S, and the letter S is Sega.
Okay.
When you say arcade, I'm thinking about Sega racing games, right?
Yeah.
So I got to bring up a Sega racing game right now, so that I can bring up another one later in a more meaningful place. I'm going to bring up the most defamiliarized of all Sega racers, the least Sega racer style Sega racer that I can bring up. And that is F-Zero GX, which is by Nintendo. And it is developed and produced, or AX. F-Zero AX by Sega Nintendo, produced by Super Monkey, directed by and designed by Super Monkey Balls. Super Monkey Balls Yakuza's Toshihiro Nagoshi, he of Sega Rally. The weirdest convergence of video game DNA perhaps in history is you've got Shigeru Miyamoto, Yakuza, Super Monkey Ball, Sega Rally, all that DNA just perfused into one of the best video games, one of probably the top 10 best video games ever made, F-Zero AX.
Yeah. Forget Battletoads Double Dragon. This is the ultimate team.
The ultimate team. So F-Zero GX, real quick, the GameCube one, beautiful game, beautiful face. If you play it on a CRT TV, you're experiencing some of the most beautiful, blazing hot, wickedly 60 FPS graphics you can possibly ever see. It is a top-down shooting game with no guns and no bullets viewed in 3 dimensions from behind a vehicle. It is just a brilliantly pure, ice cold video game that's all about the straight ahead goals. Just go fast, steer well, replenish your health in the little pit lane if you're missing on health. Just the crispiest, simplest, most beautiful video game possible that is also extraordinarily technically demanding and just incredibly rewarding to play. And that's just the GameCube version you can play on a TV in your house. The essential arcade experience is the goddarn giant cabinet. We've all played this, right? We all played the giant F-Zero AX cabinet that has a full 6-axis gimbal rotation on it, where it's the seat is moving left and right. It's pitching up and down. It is absolutely monstrous. To behold it from afar is to become filled with dread that it's going to fall apart. It's just this beautiful, beautiful thing. All these warning labels on it. Don't put your foot here. don't put your hand here, all of that stuff. And I mean, this just brings me back to arcade thrills as a kid. I'm thinking Afterburner. I'm thinking Star Wars, the arcade game, right? These like Afterburner 2 is the big one for me. Is that we've all played the sit down Afterburner 2 cabinet, right? We've all played that, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Have we? Yeah. Okay. You sit down. You're sitting real low inside this thing. I was a kid, loved jets. Living on McConnell Air Force Base in Wichita, Kansas. Loved jets. Loved the idea of wore my my vintage L2B jacket and sat there in the Afterburner cockpit thinking I'm Tom Cruise in Top Gun, which was a movie I didn't even really like. Just the degree of motion in that cabinet. There is this aggressive memory just kind of locked in for me and probably a lot of people of similar age to us of arcade games that are just throwing you around, And I feel like for me to encounter F-Zero AX at E3 in the year 2003, and to play it, it was there on the show floor at E3. I believe we all played it at that time. The line wasn't even that long. Everybody wanted to play the Zelda Four Swords for the Nintendo GameCube, but I was lined up to play that F-Zero AX over and over. I played it so many times. When I got back to Tokyo and the first machines started appearing in arcades, I was playing it there. Like to encounter at age 24 a game that shattered my mind that hard with that same feeling I'd gotten out of Afterburner was incredible. And what's even more incredible is almost 20 years later, May 31st, 2022, I'm in the Castleton Square Mall in Indianapolis, Indiana, where Boss Battle Games, shout out to Boss Battle Games in Castleton Square Mall in Indianapolis, Indiana, which has one of the best arcades that I have been to in this entire country, where they have such a beautiful selection of video games. They got LA Machine Guns, they got an old Jurassic Park, the arcade game. They've got a Time Crisis 2. They've got Gun Bullet 2, Point Blank 2, right? They've got all these games, beautiful selection of games, nice, big, spacious, dark, beautiful arcade. They have 3 F-Zero AX fully deluxe cabinets in there. So if you really want to play F-Zero AX and you never have, Boss Battle Games is $7 an hour. You can go there and have the goddarn time of your life with what is, in my opinion, it's one of the top 10 best video games of all time. And that's, I believe, all I need to say about this. I could say a lot more, and maybe I will someday. But for now,
thank you.
Let us not forget as well that this is based on the arcade hardware is Namco, Sega, and Nintendo all together, which is why it's Triforce.
The Triforce.
Yeah.
The only company missing, I mean, really, it would make more sense if it was Namco, Taito, and Sega. That would really be the
that would be very
Triforce.
Impressive, yeah.
But
because Nintendo's not an arcade.
No.
They're not necessarily, strictly speaking, famous for their arcade work.
Yeah, but it definitely gets you in the mind of the arcade thinking about this partnership, and it seemed so exciting at the time, even though ultimately
it seemed like there was going to be more stuff.
There wasn't that much more stuff, but F-Zero AX was enough, and I mean, playing it in the actual machine is the arcade experience, because F-Zero AX actually is hidden inside of F-Zero GX on the GameCube.
It is, yeah.
But you got to play it in the arcade for the real deal. One
of the saddest things in my life was going to that California Arcade Extreme Expo and seeing in the sale area someone was selling a brand new F-Zero AX arcade steering wheel, and it was $400, and it was in a big ugly plastic bag, and I was like, man, I didn't have any money at all at the time. I was like, I want that. I don't know what I'd do with it, but I would love to have that. The big button in the middle of the controller is the boost button, slamming that big giant poppin' music button to boost.
Retrofit it to your car.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah, dude, I'd do it. But man, playing that in the year 2022 again, and I played it in 2020 and 2021 as well, but playing it again in the year 2022 and just still having 100% of the thrill, always pop into Boss Battle Games. The fact that it has not diminished one bit. You sit down and be like, this is going to be cool. And then it's yeah, this rules. This is the best. This is still completely awesome. To know that I have a semi-reliable place where I can play it, because I do film my videos in Indiana, so I managed to go through that arcade quite more often than you'd think. So, man, God, love that stupid game. And so, a final anecdote is, when I was interviewing Toshihiro Nagoshi in 2019 for a video I was doing, when I brought up F-Zero AX, he got like so visibly, I mean, the word is almost like enraged with happiness. Like he was so excited to talk about F-Zero AX. Like he was like so pumped, I believe, stoked. Is that the word? Guy loves that game. He loves that game. Good
soundtrack too, by the way.
Oh, very good soundtrack. Yeah, it's just a weird little game to exist, and it's I love that it does. Ah, man.
So we gotta put it on the list.
Yeah, where are we gonna put it?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
I know my list. I know my list, Carl. If you know what I mean. I don't know who Carl is. It's Carl this week.
I mean,
Carl Winslow.
I think it might be above Irritating Maze.
That's about where I was going to put it.
When you said you didn't know, that's what you meant.
Well, I was considering, and that was what I was looking at when I said I'm not sure.
Got it.
Below Groove Coaster. Oh, that's so weird.
Yeah.
But, whatever. Yeah, I mean...
Well, Groove Coaster's the future.
I don't know about no future.
If you want it one more up, it doesn't bother me.
I don't care. I think in the future, there's a chance for somebody to bring back, the huge cabinet arcade racing game.
I'll bump it.
That gets people to show up at a place, Maybe somebody should do like a bespoke one. I feel like the rarer it is, the better. The fact that I know this F-Zero AX cabinet's in Indianapolis, Indiana, I know exactly where it's located. Like, I know where to park at the mall to get there as quickly so I can get in and out and just play F-Zero and leave, right? So it's like the fact, like, it makes me wonder if somebody were out there who were just completely bonkers enough to make a game you can only play in like one place in every city, and it's the big old... That's better than VR. That's better than the metaverse. That's better than NFT to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I gotta say, shout out to the few people that still know how to repair these things too, because you got all these gyros and all these weirdnesses.
Oh, those the 3 cabinets at Boss Battle Games are in excellent state of repair.
All right, Frank, give us one more game before we take a break.
Okay, let's see. We haven't done a crusty one in a while.
You talk about Simpsons Arcade? That's the joke that Tim doesn't know.
Pac-Man.
Okay, I'm down. No.
I attended a lecture once where the guys talked about Miss Pac-Man and how it came to be. It was so enlightening. I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
that was my joke.
Pretty good.
About how you can view that and Warren Spector talking about Deus Ex 16 times a year.
I got a few crusties. Let's just go for a classic and see what happens. Let's go for Frogger.
Sure. Frogger's all right.
I really like Frogger. I think that it's just the simplicity is what makes it, and it's still, I don't know, you can't really master Frogger, I don't think, because it's just such a such a challenging thing to do, and it just feels good to play, and it's a little weird.
Had a bad episode of Seinfeld made about it.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one yet somehow.
Where Peter Stormare plays Kramer's like arch nemesis.
Okay.
Who would have been a good recurring character had the show sadly not ended a few episodes later.
I just think mechanically it's sound, and that like you can improve it, but there's not really much reason to, because why would you? It just works. So that is my very quick recommendation. I would put it at the bottom of the list.
Oh, excellent.
I don't like Frogger. I'm just going to say, I actually don't like Frogger. And when Crossy Road became so popular, I was like, it's just Frogger.
Isn't this just Frogger?
It's just Frogger, man.
It's just like bad Frogger.
I understand the mechanics of it and why it would be appealing to somebody. But Frogger just doesn't do it for me. It's too...
yeah.
I don't know. It's very specific, but in kind of a floppy way, which usually I would like, so I don't know. I can't explain myself.
To briefly speak on what I like about Frogger, when you say crusty old arcade games, one of the things I love is inscrutable premise. So that's to me a hallmark of crusty old arcade game. Pac-Man, as the premises do not get more inscrutably than that, right? I'm sure that topic's been done to death in the video game culture. Who knows what that's all about, right? Et cetera, et cetera. However, to me, I prefer the inscrutable premise of something that kind of involves objects I've interacted with in real life, sort of, right? So it's like a frog and some cars. Like, why is that the game, right? That's actually more confounding, more mysterious, and a little bit more morbid to me than a pizza eating some ghosts, right? So I say, hats off to Frogger. Thank you.
Where do we put it?
Frank said bottom.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Yeah, kick it to the curb, yeah.
I like the curb. Let's all go to the curb for a quick break. Afterwards, we'll be right back for the second half of this list.
I could make a whole list just out of Taito games or just SNK games or whatever, and it's hard to not just choose my favorite video games.
Yeah, Taito games are legit smokable, dude.
It's true. It's true. How's the dog gonna react?
Don't think too bad. There's actually 3 dogs now.
Heck.
I mean, they're not all ours, but there's 2 of them that...
They've been multiplying, Mogwai style.
You got a 3-dog night over there.
Ah, there we go.
Welcome back to Insert Credit, the arcade episode 256. Brandon, it's your game.
All right, it's real hard to choose these because there's so many of these games that I like, and I just don't know. But I think I'm gonna have to, and this probably won't be all the way up on the list either. But I love a game that tries a thing, and then you're like, oh, well, that was a good idea. And so I'm going to go with Typing of the Dead.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Because that's a video game that takes an arcade game experience of House of the Dead light gun game, and then it gives you a keyboard and is like, oh, here's your game now. You type out these words and that'll shoot the zombos for you. And it's just, to me, the reason I'm putting this on here is because it is such a late period, still having a console Sega type of a thing where they're like, let's try it. They were trying a lot of stuff in those days. A lot of the things worked only okay. One of those things being the Dreamcast, because they failed to succeed with that. But Typing of the Dead is just like, of course it did sort of become a Dreamcast game, so I don't know. Should I choose something else? But I just like experimentation of it.
One hit against it, correct me if I'm wrong, but there is no English language arcade Typing of the Dead.
I don't think that's...
It's got English words in it.
Yeah.
It's got English words in it, but you were typing Japanese words with English characters. And I don't believe there is an English version. Is there an arcade one that has like the dictionary that like Dreamcast does? Because the only Typing of the Dead arcade
I've only ever played
was Japanese words.
I think you're right. It doesn't have English in the US. Okay, you know what?
There's no English.
Yeah.
Maybe
I'd say still count it.
Okay.
I'd say still count it, dude. Frank, if you're ever in Japan and you happen to cross
I have
Japanese,
played the heck out of this and
Japanese Typing of the Dead.
Oh yeah, this and the
Lupin one.
Yeah.
Doesn't that Japanese house Typing of the Dead totally rule?
It does. Where it falls apart is when I have to answer a question. That's just when the game ends.
Yeah, they shouldn't do that.
There's a boss where you have to answer a question, and like I love the challenge of typing words that I don't know.
That don't make any sense to you.
Right?
Yeah.
But
I would love it if I had something like that today.
Yeah.
I would go for that.
Yeah.
But anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I still think it's worth including.
I'll leave it on there.
Can I just say good keyboards, too? Those keyboards on those House of the Dead or Typing of the Dead machines are actually quite nice. I actually think the Dreamcast USB keyboard was pretty nice as well.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Which was a pretty nice keyboard. Though the one on the arcade machines was quite exquisite. I mean, Japan is known for its beautiful keyboards.
And the characters being the same as the House of the Dead guys, but I don't know if it's...
But they've got keyboards.
But they've got keyboards and they've got Dreamcast straps to their backs. I mean, come on.
Ridiculous. Yeah, that's very good.
Ridiculous.
That's very good, and it's very Sega.
The sound effects that go along with typing are very tactile because you're going like...
Yeah.
Yeah. They make a very idealized version of what a mechanical keyboard sounds like. It's very machined and nice in the game. Very good, smooth. It kind of sounds like the ideal text reveal sound, like a Dragon Quest text scroll sound.
And to me, it's the only kind of evolution that I've seen of the Laserdisc style game where you have like you're on rails and you're making the right choice or not. But in this case, the right choice is I typed it rather than I hit left. And so that's a little more so in the loop on the third one where you're on more of an adventure. But I like that as well, where it's kind of taking, even though it's real-time graphics, it's taking the idea of playing a movie with correct and incorrect points, but making it much more nuanced and giving you a greater feeling of control over it and a feeling of accomplishment when you do it correct instead of being like, I remembered. So yeah, I like it. It's an arcade game, that's for sure. So we don't need to talk about it too much. Let's put it on the list.
It's interesting because I think of it as a Dreamcast game, but I think it's because that's the only way to play it in English.
Yeah. It is kind of a Dreamcast game more than an arcade game in parts of my brain. I guess I wanted more Sega things on here that weren't traditional Sega things, and maybe that's
that said, it's middle of the list for me. Like, I'd put it just below Irritating Maze.
Yeah, I think that's
so
right.
You said you want more Sega things that aren't traditional Sega things. So there's only one Sega thing on here on the list so far, and it's not a traditional Sega thing. So
yeah,
so it's not like we might be excluding Sega to a fault here.
I think we are.
Who knows?
Yeah, I'm looking at my list that I made, and it's like, maybe there's not enough Sega on my list. Anyway, all right, let's say under Irritating Maze.
Sure.
That was mine, yeah.
Yeah, why not? Just put it on there. It's funny. I just want to say it's a real shame that the keyboards don't have number pads on them because I think it would be fun to incorporate some numbers in there. And also, why is it that when you go to a website that's ranking keyboards and they're like top 10 best keyboards 2022, it's universally these 60%, 80%, 50%, 20%, 60%, like these 10 key lists, like reduced keyboards where they cut all the keys out. I like my keyboards to have all the goddarn keys, dude, because I use them all the time, you know? I use the number pad all the time, and if you're not using that number pad all the time, you're not doing it right. So that's the only reason Typing of the Dead is not number one. Thank you.
Tim, you're up next.
Well, okay, so we got Typing of the Dead, which is a non-traditional Sega game, and it's also a non-traditional light gun game, right?
Yeah.
So, I feel like we should have a light gun game on there, right?
I've got one on my list, but it's not on my list of ones I was going to suggest. It's just on my list. I'm curious to know which one you're going to go for.
Well, I don't know either, because, I like House of the Dead. You ever play House of the Dead 2?
Yeah, I have suffered in a way that's similar to G.
It would be pretty funny to have them both on.
Because it is funny, but also House of the Dead, Typing of the Dead's got that that keyboard. House of the Dead 2's got that goddarn gun, dude.
Yeah.
That gun is beautiful.
I was vacillating between House of the Dead 2 and Virtua Cop 2.
Should I throw in my light gun one?
Yeah.
So, I like Police Trainer.
Okay.
Police Trainer.
You never played that?
I know Police Trainer.
Okay.
Cops suck, though.
That's true. Yeah, let's just knock it off the list for that reason. But it is the superior game here.
Virtua Cop 2, you can shoot the tires off the cars, and you can shoot guys in the junk. So those...
Yeah, that is good.
For me, those two particular elements place it
Virtual
highly.
Cop is pretty spiritually close to Undercover Cops.
It's true.
I like the gun in House of the Dead 2. I really like the gun in House of the Dead 3. Have you all played House of the Dead 3?
I have,
Yes.
but I don't like... for whatever reason, the game doesn't grab me as much. I do like the gun, but I like playing House of the Dead 3, I'm like, it's all right.
So the feeling of the House of the Dead 2 gun is meticulous. So, Namco gets all the hubbub for their gun con, which was also released for the PlayStation, and it's almost as though they were the kings of light guns. But the House of the Dead 2, the light gun, had a really exquisite feel to it.
Yeah.
And the House of the Dead 3 shotgun is, I would actually say that's the House of the Dead 4 was an Uzi, right?
Yeah, that was the Uzi.
I didn't play too much House of the Dead 4. So House of the Dead 3 was that big old shotgun, and that was a really good feeling.
Wait, no, 3 was the Uzi, I think.
No, 3 was a shotgun, dude. 3 was a shotgun. I know 3 was a shotgun. Because I done played a whole bunch of 3. I remember my buddy Drew got real good at reloading, but after every shot, it was real good. Where you just hold the trigger down and then reload really fast while you're aiming around the screen. Stupid as heck video game. It was real fun to also see Japanese schoolgirls playing it, 2 of them together with holding these ultra realistic shotguns, blasting them this was even before Kill Bill, So I believe it was 2002 or so. It was one of the games. It came out very soon after I moved to Japan, so I remember seeing it a lot, and I loved it. But am I putting House of the Dead 3 on here? Is that the one I would put? It's not the Suffer Like G Did one. So that makes it a more atypical selection. It's
Suffer Like 3 did.
Suffer Like 3 did. Would I do that one? Would I say that's it? I don't even know. I don't even like it now that I think about it. Let's okay, hold on. I'm going to sit here and I'm going to cook up a light gun game. Let's move over to Frank.
All right, Frank.
Oh man, okay. I wasn't ready for that quick transition.
Let's move over to Frank and we'll come back.
You passed me the basketball and it just went right through me.
And you just ghosted the basketball, bro.
I did. All of mine are pretty boring from here on out. Like I have a just bizarre game I don't even like that I just think is weird and I want it on there, but I don't think that's good enough. Let's do another old-fashioned, just the mechanics are perfect and there's no reason to improve it game. Tapper.
Okay.
Tapper.
I think Tapper is great as it is. I mean, it's got some fluff. It's got like bonus games that don't quite make sense or whatever, but the core game of just managing people as they're coming in and swapping between bars and like Frogger, I think it's just, I wouldn't really add anything to that core game. It still just works as a game.
Diner Dash Arcade.
Tapper, Frogger.
Same
thing, really.
Yeah.
When you think about it.
So I believe that I will go for the Budweiser version and not the root beer version of Tapper.
Yeah,
sure.
For adults.
Oh yeah, root beer Tapper. Root beer Tapper sucks.
Yeah, they really ruined the game with that. I can't get my immersion in that world. It's just gone. Like, who is lining up for root beer? It's got to be really good root beer.
I did actually see it at the Oktoberfest here on the weekend in the Laurel district of Oakland. There were children lining up at the root beer stand.
Okay.
So I have, believe it or not, I saw it yesterday.
Wow.
Literally children lining. Was it fresh root beer?
No, it was just like mug root beer in cans, but I think it was because there wasn't other stuff for them to drink, which sucks.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Root beer as an alcohol substitute is just kind of a tricky subject, in my opinion. I don't like it. I'm not really into it. I like root beer by itself.
Yeah, I like the Virgil's that's got the little hint of licorice in it. I like that.
Oh, the Virgil's is meticulous, yeah. You should consider taking deglycerinated licorice root extract pills, which are just chewable tablets that taste like old-timey candy. I really like them.
Yeah. It's also the predecessor to Red Dead Redemption 2 in that it has Oh Susanna on the soundtrack.
Nice.
Oh, Susanna.
You're talking about Tapper, I assume, not the...
yes, I'm talking about Tapper. Yeah.
Good old Tapper.
Yeah, it's not like a greeting card in pill bottle form, the chewables. You don't open the chewables and it starts playing music.
Right.
Yeah, that would actually be cool. I'm a big fan of beverages in general, so I would put it above Frogger at the very least.
Oh, sure, it's about Frogger.
I think that's probably where it would stay for me, though.
But I have in the past actually drank root beer while playing X-Men, the arcade game, so... Like, no joke. I've actually drank root beer while playing
X-Men. All right, it's your turn again, Tim.
Make this stuff up. It's my turn again?
Yeah.
Shoot. Wait, I thought we were going all the way around again and coming back to me.
But then you would have to go twice.
Then you'd have to go twice. Is that what you want?
Yeah, why not? I can go twice.
All right,
Just
Brandon.
give me a couple more seconds here.
All right. Boy. How many? I have 3 left only. That makes...
That seems right, yeah.
God, I have 3 left. Okay.
It makes the decision a lot...
Oh, wait, no, I have 2 left. Okay.
Yeah, you have 2 left. I have so many more. Man, Frank, if you want to give me yours, I'll take them.
Man, go for it. I don't care.
Because I got so many video games I want to be on here. Okay, I'm going to go with another odd one because we haven't had a puzzle game.
Right.
My favorite arcade puzzle game, which I'm not going to put on here, is Landmaker. Because I don't know, maybe
that's a weird one.
I mean, I could put Landmaker on there, but it's it feels like less of a phenomenon. Landmaker is a game that anytime somebody's over at my house, I basically make them play that game with me because it's a cool, weird game about making diamonds of land and then destroying those in order to defeat your opponent and push their land off the screen. It's makes you think a little different way. I very much enjoy it, but I'm gonna do Azumanga Puzzle Daioh, which is a puzzle bobble game. So you're
I know this one.
It's very similar to your puzzle bobble with Bub and Bob shooting bubbles up into the air, and you're trying to connect
and Bob, those deadbeats,
all the colors together and whatever. But with Azumanga Puzzle Daioh, you have a window of varying size in between, I think it's varying size, in between the wells. So you can shoot your garbage onto the other player's field. Or if you think that they're about to do something amazing, you can try to interrupt them. And it makes you actually look at the whole playing field as a puzzle game. And it's a really fun mechanic that is kind of broken, which is why they didn't really continue it that much past it. But that game is really fun, and it never got a port anywhere, and it's a licensed game, which means it basically probably never will. And at this point, who even cares or knows about it? So it's stuck in the Sega arcades. It was a Taito game licensed on Naomi or Adamus Wave. I think it's Naomi. Yeah, it's Naomi. And yeah, it's just, you can't play it except for on an arcade cabinet at this point. I'm sure you could play it in MAME or whatever, but it's a fun one. I like these versus puzzle games. I think that they're a great and kind of underappreciated element of the arcade scene. I love the versus games when you're playing with a friend and it's ridiculous. And man, I played that Super Puzzle Fighter in the arcade with Jonathan Persona Kim, friend of the show. That dude destroyed me. He's so good. He's so good at that game. We famously made him, among ourselves at least, made him play
as Dan.
Made him play the game. He didn't have to play as Dan, but he would play with not in arcades, but at home with the controller upside down and behind his back, so that we could have a slight chance of winning. Anywho, Azumanga Puzzle Daioh, that's my one that I'm putting up here. It's a good puzzle game, and it's a versus puzzle game, and it's got a little funny little quirk to it, and it's very arcadey.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of slightly broken versus puzzle games. That there was this era where a lot of people were trying to do versus puzzle games that had more meaningful interaction between the two sides. Because the number one criticism you can level at a versus puzzle game is that there's really not that much interaction. Yeah. Right. So there were a whole lot of them that tried to have more interaction, and then eventually realized, it's kind of hard to not completely shatter the game.
Yeah, it doesn't really work when you do it.
I played that Azumanga Puzzle Daioh.
But it's fun when they try it, and this one worked for me. I'd probably put it below CVS 2.
Below CVS 2, huh?
I got no opinion here, so it's up to you.
I think it feels weird having that broken puzzle game above a Stone Cold classic, Asteroids Deluxe.
Okay, put it above X-Men.
Above X-Men? Yeah, why not?
No, come on.
No? I'm going to go ahead and say I've never read the manga Azumanga Daioh.
A broken puzzle game that you could play at home versus 6-player X-Men?
You can't? No, you can't play it at home. You can't.
I can play it right now.
Oh, okay. Well, you could play any of these at home.
No, you can't play 6-player X-Men in a way that makes sense at home. Whereas, you could sit on a couch with MAME and play this game.
You could play X-Men online with the servers that they get for playing.
Have you ever played an emulator online, Brandon Sheffield? No, you can't.
Okay.
They're not so good.
Also, that is not the same thing as this giant stupid cabinet with 2 CRTs in it.
I want to put it above Tapper.
I mean, this list is all over the place as far as I'm concerned. But yeah, okay.
It sure is.
Yeah, this list swerved off the road a long time ago. Around the time we almost immediately went off road with this list.
With
if you know what I mean.
Ironman Stewart. Tim, you got double tap duty.
Double tap. So I just love the idea of putting a light gun game on here.
Yes.
I feel weird about putting House of the Dead 3 on after
just
typing
pull the trigger.
On. No, I'll pull the trigger on. I think. God, it's hard because it's I want to say Virtua Cop 2.
Yeah.
Right. I want to say it, but the gun is so good for House of the Dead 3. It's my favorite arcade gun controller.
Yeah, you like that shotgun?
It's my favorite. Yeah, it's so good. It's so heavy.
All right.
It weighs 5 pounds.
Do it.
And it's but Virtua Cop 2 is so much cooler.
Yeah, and you can shoot guys in the
so you see where this is difficult.
I do.
You see where this becomes difficult. So I'm just going to have to pass it to, I'm going to make the decision, which is to just do neither of them for now. And we're going to say Sega's Virtual Wing War. Do you know Wing War? Does anybody know this game?
I'm not sure. Let me check.
It's an early Virtua game where it is a versus one-on-one linked up cabinet flight simulator dogfighting game.
Oh, yeah.
With some of the most beautiful low polygon graphics.
Yeah.
Played it at the Block Party in Indianapolis, Indiana around the time it came out. I love airplane stuff. I'm an airplane stuff guy. And this game was so cool. The god darn character select menu is so incredible. It's one of the most awe-inspiring character select menus I've ever seen in a video game. It's all of these elite pilots gathered in a circle, standing next to their cool planes, with some wacky referee in the middle, gesticulating wildly as you oscillate between the characters. To say nothing of the gameplay, which was full virtuosic, full free roaming 3D, done at a time when we had none of that on any home console or anything. We had really no sort of free roaming flight games at all in the arcade at that point. It was a very new, very exciting game that simultaneously communicated to me all these rich possibilities for stuff video games could do. And, before we got stuck in not to call it a rut so much, but we're now kind of mired in FPSs being the de facto online multiplayer competitive genre. Fighting games are clawing their way in there. Fighting games have really kind of established themselves, especially in recent years. But I mean, FPSs are pretty much the go-to modern game, your Fortnites and whatnot. But man, I just remember playing that 3D dog fighting pilot flying video game and just thinking, this is so cool. I can't wait till there's another one. I can't wait till Wing War 2, and it's like none of that ever happened. And there was never a home console port. Nothing ever came of it. And
I always wondered if Wing Arms for Saturn was somehow related, but I guess it's not. It's like,
I love Wing War. I played it a whole bunch with my brother.
World War II. Yeah, Wing War is cool, and it's got that interesting approach to draw distance, where all the major things are there, but all the smaller details pop in when you get closer, which is
heck yeah,
pretty common now, or like now Xbox 360 era, but was different at the time. I don't know. It looks good, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's a real cool game. I had a very good time playing it. I played it a lot when it first came out. It just has, to this day. I just Googled it first time, and man, what a cool looking video game this is, dude. This is such a cool looking game. This is, it's Sega. It's a Model 1 game, right? It's same hardware as Virtua Fighter and Virtua Racing, right? A home conversion for Sega 32X was in development, but later canceled. I've just had it in my head for so long. I just want more airplane video games. Man, there's not enough cool airplane video games in this world.
This looks like a cool game I would play once.
Yeah.
Oh, you would play it more than once you experience the thrill.
Where do you want to rank it?
I don't know. Who cares?
Yeah, pretty much. Below Asteroids.
You can put it down there with Azumanga, Puzzle, Daioh, Flip a Coin. I don't know.
All right.
We really want to put this above? That's fine.
Below X-Men.
Above what? Tapper and Frogger?
Well, it's X-Men.
Below X-Men.
Yeah.
X-Men is just the arcade experience to me.
Yeah.
That is true. You can go ahead, put it below X-Men. Just do it. I don't care.
There we go. And what's your second game?
What's my second game? So I'm going to pick a somewhat similar game to that, which is I just love big old games I can sit down in. And I was going to pick Virtua On, though there's ample ports and whatever. And there's Oratorio Tangram on your 360. There's all of that. So, another game, this is a game that not enough that I was just playing recently, the home version of, and just kind of feeling kind of left behind by the home version, which I think is the true experience of an arcade game is if you play the home version, how left behind do you feel by it, right? How desolate, how down in the dumps do you feel playing the home version? How much does it make you go, the arcade version had so much promise? And now that I mention it, I'm starting to think that I don't want it to be this game. I want it to be another game that I was reminded of. So here we go. When we're talking about big old arcade games, it's something you sit down at, and the controls are too complicated. Once you get the hang of it, your mind just lights up. With like fireworks on the 4th of July, your mind lights up at the possibilities of what video games can do and what they can be. And for me, that was the Namco game Cyber Sled, which uses the two sticks, much like Virtua On did. Mm-hmm. And it's you're controlling a hover tank vehicle, right? And you're fighting one-on-one death matches against. It's some sort of Smash TV game show future where people fight each other in an arena in these hover tank battles. And the controls are just so meticulous and precise because you're doing Katamari controls, move both sticks forward to go forward, both sticks to the side to strafe to the side, and you're shooting. However, the game doesn't really it doesn't really celebrate its premise enough. And then, the PlayStation 1 version controls with the Neji-Kon. You can use Neji-Kon to play. You don't have to. You can use your regular controller, but the Neji-Kon is obviously the better experience because you're twisting the controller, and it's very fun. But that doesn't really live up to just the idea that we could have had these beautiful vehicle-based one-on-one video games, which I feel like the arcade was particularly good for.
Yeah, Cyber Sled feels the most like among Namco's,
a modern esport.
It feels like an American kind of esports game. Like it feels like Battle Sport or one of those midway-ish ones, which is interesting. And it might be all of the pyramids in it, but
it's a very cold, weird.
Yeah.
So I actually like the sequel, Cyber Commando, a lot better. Have you played the sequel?
I'm not sure if
Namco had this. Namco had a problem in the 1990s of never naming a game the correct thing, always naming the sequel something different.
Right.
Ridge Racer, Rave Racer, Rage Racer, just brand it, dude, right? Like they could have, so Cyber Sled's sequel is called Cyber Commando. Though thinking about Cyber Commando made me think about other forgotten big old weird gimmicky arcade game experiences, which made me think of Ollie King by Sega with the skateboard controller, which made me think of Namco's Prop Cycle.
Prop Cycle is very good.
Which, if you were 16 years old and you got a GIF of Prop Cycle and uploaded it to Twitter and go, video games in the 90s were such a vibe, you would get like 10,000 retweets in like 5 minutes, right? If you TikTok it, like Prop Cycle would. You would have endorsement deals if you TikToked 10 seconds of Prop Cycle in the year 2022, because that game looks completely bonkers and it's just a beautiful game. So Prop Cycle is the one I actually want to say, because it's Prop Cycle right there next to Hydro Thunder in your arcade. Mm-hmm. Just big, weird, loud Namco games. Prop Cycle again, inscrutable premise. Why am I on this this bike that has flappy wings?
Bike that looks kind of like the actual thing you're sitting on. Kind of looks like a happy snail to me, like it would be in a children's book, like a little happy snail.
And you pedal this thing and it blows a fan at you in real life, just an analog fan, not any kind of digital. No, it's not virtual. You just got this fan blowing at you to make you feel like you're floating in the air.
Is this above or below Wing War?
I'd put it above Wing War.
Me too.
Man. Yeah, so it's like basically I just want to everyone must know, a listener, be known, let it be known to you, listener, that Prop Cycle is here by way of Ridge Racer, by way of Cyber Commando, by way of Cyber Sled. So it's it got here the long way, and it stands in for the true glory of Namco, because again, there's no home version of Prop Cycle, and it is just a wacky, beautiful little weird thing. And again, it's free roaming flight, which is the lineage from Wing War for me. So love it,
Frank.
Yeah.
It's your second to last game. What are you going to do?
Brandon, you want to do Dog Patch?
Sure, I'll do Dog Patch.
I mean, do you want to let me do it? Like,
I'll
team up here.
Do Dog Patch.
This game called Dog Patch.
And then I'll just give you a free one because I took that one. So this is my final pick. That's my final pick is Dog Patch. We have talked about it extensively on this show. I guess the latter half of my appearance this episode is all about the mechanics that I don't think can be improved. Sorry, Brandon.
No, that's fine.
This is a very, very simple game that we've talked about at least twice on this show. The premise is that you are a dude with a shotgun, and there's two dudes with shotguns on either side of a net, essentially, and you're playing volleyball.
Possibly with beards.
Can't really tell. They have beards on the flyer, for sure. I have the flyer.
Yeah.
That's beards then.
And the premise is you're playing volleyball by shooting a can back and forth, and you get 2 shots per volley. And it is done with a dial that I don't know how many degrees of aim you have, but it's enough. The amount is enough. That's the answer. To aim your gun after you've been playing for, I don't know, 3 minutes, you can muscle memory every angle of that shot, and you start developing your own strategies for setting up like spikes on the other guy and stuff like that.
Anticipating where they're gonna shoot so that you can shoot there first.
Mm-hmm. It is. I mean, the entire time you're playing, you are just full energy concentration because you cannot blink while playing Dogpatch. It does not allow you.
It blows air in your eyes to try to make you blink. That's prop cycle.
And the only thing that would improve Dogpatch is blowing hot, musty computer air at you, but it doesn't do that.
But
unfortunately,
here's my question about Dogpatch. This is an earnest, honest, well-meaning, sincere question. Is could you get an endorsement deal if you TikToked 10 seconds of it by a 16-year-old who said games in the blanks in this decade were such a vibe?
It doesn't have enough graphics, unfortunately. Like it can be as wacky as you want, but it doesn't have enough graphics.
Games in the 80s were such a vibe. Or is it from 79?
It's probably from...
Games in the 70s were such a vibe.
It's like 79, 80. It's definitely in that old time.
It's black and white. It's right on that edge, yeah.
Yeah.
Pong was such a vibe.
And it is another game where you cannot play this game correctly unless you're playing the arcade game. You need that
Very
dial.
Good. Yeah, the dial is critical.
I mean, it's high up there for me. God, I don't know. I guess I'd put it somewhere around Super Off-Road.
That sounds right.
Yes, quite right.
Super Off-Road. Yeah, I'd put it above.
Where would you?
Above right? I think above is right.
I want to hear Brandon's opinion.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, where are you gonna put it?
It's a tough one. So we didn't try to improve on it when making Gunsport, Hyper Gunsport. We tried to like make a lateral move, but it definitely did inspire the game. But I think that Dogpatch by itself does not need improvement and is it very much its own thing. And like the biggest problem we had in conceptualizing it was how do you make this enjoyable without the dial? And that's when it basically became a different game instead of being like Dogpatch, because you can't without the dial.
Fair enough.
Is that not too high?
Where you want to put it?
It's pretty high. That's where I put it. I put it too high, so it is on the other panelists to fix this.
I'm gonna admit, I played that game flat out. Just don't like it. I'm sorry.
Did you play it with another
I don't
person?
see anything. Oh yeah. I don't see anything good in it. I mean, no offense. I don't see it. I mean, you clearly see enough in it to have made a game similar to it. So that's interesting to me. Though aside from that, I mean, it didn't have the spark for me. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, me and Frank having a good time. I might put it below CVS 2, but
all right.
I don't know.
I mean, put it where you feel. Because again, my list is in my heart.
That's still thereabouts.
Okay.
Super Off-Road.
Okay.
All right, Brandon, it's your second to last game.
Second to last.
It's tough. I just want to put all these video games on.
Let's
here.
crank through these. Come on.
Okay. All right, we don't have a shooter on here, and that's a mistake. And so
that's a huge oversight. Yeah.
I'm putting on Darius. I'm gonna go for Darius, and the reason I'm going for Darius is because
Daryavesh, we call him in
which
Hebrew.
Darius?
I'm just gonna say the first one.
X Darius. Q Darius.
Darius.
I'm just making up Darius's now.
The first Darius and or Darius 2. Either of those is fine, but I like
because you like shooting big fish. Is that it?
I love
shooting big old fish.
I love
alien.
the big old fish bosses. I love the huge enemies approaching, klaxons. I love the dumb 3-screen thing, which frankly is not necessary. Like it doesn't actually make the game better, but it's fun to look at. This game, it was a gimmick where it had 3 screens. I guess it's a testament to Darius that this game launched with a gimmick of having 3 CRTs that's had this overlap with mirror kind of thing so that it would create a continuous 3-screen experience. And it is a testament to the game that the home conversions of it with a single screen are totally fine. Like it does, you don't really miss having the big 3 screens. But when you play it in the arcade and you do see the 3 screens, you're like, dang, dude, this is quite something. But it's a great...
Hilarious.
I love the side-scrolling shooters. It's got the independently upgradable forward shot and bomb and shield and speed, and I liked that those were independent power-ups rather than a selection like they are in Gradius and other games of that type. and it's also not as difficult as some of them, which I personally appreciate. It can be difficult if you play it on higher difficulty settings, but the default is not terrible, and it feels surprisingly fair for an arcade game.
It's more of a come on down to the arcade and hang out with this cool game sort of situation. You plug your headphones into the headphone jack and have a good time.
Mm-hmm. And you got Outrun style branching paths at the end of each level. You decide if you want to go up or down to C zone or B zone or D zone, etc. And that's fun. So you got a bunch of different zones, a lot of which are repeats or have like the same boss, but now it's red instead of green. But it's just, it's cool, and it's got that ear-piercing, just shattering music that sounds like it was designed to give you a migraine. Yeah, it's like Zuntata went to a noise show and was like,
Personally, my migraines are related to lights, but yeah, some people get them from sound.
Mine too.
Yeah. Okay, so, yeah.
That's it, Darius. Darius is cool.
Where do you put it?
I think Darius goes below Ibara, which is my pick for the next game. Ibara Kuro Black Label, which is the revision of Ibara, the arcade game Ibara, based on the PlayStation 2 port of the arcade game Ibara.
I was going to say, I thought that was
really?
the PlayStation 1, but...
You're not going to put Outrun on the list.
What?
You're not going to put Outrun on the list.
Wait, I thought I had 2 left. Or no, did only Brandon have 2 left?
Yeah, I have 2 left because I think. Well,
yeah,
I don't know
only Brandon has 2 left.
Oh yeah, because I'm last. You only have 1, and now I don't. Now I have 1 left. And you're about to be 0, but we should place Darius first, probably.
Yeah, we should.
Oh.
Well, someone's taking mine. I don't have any other good ones.
Maybe we can come to an accord, Tim, on Frank's last one. But let's place Darius somewhere.
Yeah, let's
here.
place Darius first.
I'd put it, I don't know, right below CVS2 or something.
Above Dogpatch?
Above Dogpatch, yeah.
Darius above X-Men? Like, it's the battle of the multi-screen games, and X-Men is 6 players.
I mean, you want to put X-Men higher?
I think I do.
What the issue is? Because that seems to be the sticking point.
It is a sticking point for me. Like, this is, like, a very, very arcade game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Darius is very arcade. I've played one of the like original run cabinets, which they would often wheel out, very nicely cleaned up, and they had it at Hay. They took real nice care of it. A very beautiful, essential arcade cabinet experience.
I mean, you could put X-Men higher up. That's not a problem.
Yeah, I think that's the solution. I think I'd put it above Irritating Maze myself.
Ooh, that's very high for me.
So wait, how many games is this we've got now? Is it 17?
Yeah, this will be number 17.
Oh, okay.
Which means, all right, now we need to replace X-Men, and then we have to place Darius.
All right, let's do it.
It's been a sticking point for me that so many things.
He's been having a tough time with X-Men.
Yeah, like that. So many things are being put above X-Men, whereas I think that is just a quintessential arcade experience.
Yeah, you obviously want it in the top 10.
I don't care if it's top 10.
I think top 10 is probably pretty reasonable.
10 is fine. Yeah,
it's fine to go above Typing of the Dead, I think.
Yeah, Typing of the Dead can get kind of pushed down a little bit.
Okay.
And then I'll put Darius below CVS2, if that's all right.
Yeah, it sounds right.
All right. Tim, your ostensible last pick.
How many is this?
This is 17.
Wait, I thought I had 2 left.
No,
because you did 2 in a row.
2 in a row that one time.
Oh, okay. Well,
you have 1 left, and then we'll agree on stealing Frank's last one.
Well, let me put Ibara on and then just make Frank's last one Outrun. I mean, come on.
Okay.
That is what we were teasing towards, yeah.
Just, I already said Ibara Black Label, which I think you would be remiss to not...
Yeah, we gotta have a vertical scrolling.
Not include something from the deep legacy of vertical scrolling shooters. And Ibara is one of the most aesthetically perfect video games ever made in terms of its colors and its sounds. And
I might have put on layer section, aka whatever it's called, Rayforce. Or Sokyu Garantai, but that's
Ray Force sucks. No, I like all of those Taito top downs.
Yeah.
I really think Ibara is the legitness. I mean,
dude. Ibara is more of the modern shooting aesthetic anyway. So
yeah, Ibara is incredible. It's modern. It's bullet heck. But it's also just kind of a pretty straightforward, honest video game.
All those caves feel very smooth to play, which is what is most impressive to me about them. It's just like moving around in them, moving a ship around in those cave games feels very nice. I never really figured out exactly why that is, that the movement of the ship in caves, vertical shooters, it just feels really nice.
just enough tilt left and right, not too much. It's not too over animated. I mean, Frank likes the idea of games that are essentially arcade games, and I realize this is a vertically oriented Tate mode CRT game that is played with the joystick and 2 buttons. It's not necessarily the most essential arcade experience game, but there's something about playing it on one of those perfectly calibrated. This is like the connoisseurs, perfectly calibrated CRT and one of those perfectly nicely upkept, beautifully cleaned Japanese arcade backless chairs, hunched over. Maybe there's 2 or 3 people just side-eyedly watching you play. Nobody's staring at it, but they're just kind of watching just to see how good you are. I feel like there's an essential arcade element to these hardcore top-down shooters.
Plus, having some Tate stuff in here, more Tate stuff in here is good.
Yeah, and I feel like Ibara is the most insert credity choice in my opinion, because if I'm allowed to have an opinion there.
The other one we could do is Ketsui, which I still get hate mail about how I didn't like it the one time I played it 20 years ago.
Ketsui's all right.
That would be very funny. But no, let's put Ibara
I think
in.
Ibara's the classic. Ibara is so good.
Yeah, that's fine. Put it in. Where do you want to put it?
I don't know. I would say I would put it above Darius.
That's fine.
I don't know.
You can go above Darius.
Ibara Black Label. I like
wherever
that.
Darius is, put it. What's your next one?
Let's do Brandon, and then we'll decide on what to do with Frank's pick.
Yeah, so this is tough. I got so many games on my list that I'm not putting on here. I guess I can either choose something. I don't know. Like there hasn't been a Metal Slug on here, and it just feels.
Yeah, but I mean those are all.
But you can play them
all
everywhere.
The consoles.
So I'm gonna go with another weird one.
You get a weird one.
When y'all were talking about odd licensed multiplayer, same screen video games, there's one that always stands out to me, and I'm just gonna put it on this list because here we go. It's Konami's G.I. Joe, which is
love it.
A game.
All right. Yep.
A Cabal
It's a super scaler that scales into the screen, and then there's like a big factory, and then you fight some guys there, and then the doors open, then you scroll in, then you scroll up in the elevator, and it's just like you got all these sprites.
It's like a Sin and Punishment 2, like before Sin and Punishment 1.
You're on rails, and you're behind the back of your character, and you're shooting. Your cursor goes all over the screen, and it's such a game, and it never got brought to anything.
No, never. I was waiting so patiently.
I'm still waiting, goddamn.
Nothing scales, man.
Yeah.
Nothing scales like that arcade hardware. That's the problem.
Yeah, nothing like that. Absolutely gorgeous video game.
Yeah.
Me and my brother, it was at the Anthony's Pizza. Like, we played the heck out of that game.
Anthony's Pizza.
Yeah, it was at the Anthony's. We called it Anthony's, okay? So if it was at them pizzas.
Oh yeah,
and we loved it. So we loved Cabal as well. Did you ever play Cabal? That's another. You're a dude, kind of a wild guns. Like you're at the bottom of the screen, moving your dude around, moving the cursor semi-independently, jumping occasionally.
Yeah,
right?
That's
So G.I. Joe was like that, except it was like 800 miles per hour. Because you played a lot of Cabal where it's the screen doesn't scroll or anything, right?
Yeah.
So it's when you play the G.I. Joe, it feels like you're moving at the speed of sound. It feels completely bonkers. Love that G.I. Joe arcade game.
I also played this game at my most frequent arcade. I played it at the Starbase one in San Rafael, California, and it was 1998 or whatever, 1999. I don't remember what year it was. It was one of those kinds of years. And this game from whenever it was blew my mind. Like 3D was here. I probably had a Dreamcast already, but I looked at this thing and I was like, holy crap. How is this game holding together? There's just all these sprites all over the place, and it felt really tight. And you had like a roll dodge that you could do, but you're scrolling around, and then you stop scrolling to have the boss fights, and then you scroll again. You're scrolling up, scrolling side. It's just
the game was wild.
It was wild, and it just felt like it was out of time. Like it was never going to look old because it was never going to look new at any time. I don't know. It's a weird and wacky one. I love it.
You gotta love it. Excellent. excellent weird game.
Where do you put it?
I'd put it over Typing of the Dead, to be honest.
Sure.
Just go wild on it. Put it right up there with its brother X-Men.
I got no problem with that.
Yeah, X-Men should be next to G.I. Joe. I think Typing of the Dead is too high.
Yeah, I think so as well.
Yeah.
I feel it in my gut that
All right,
Typing of the Dead is too high.
Put it below Darius.
Okay. That makes me feel a lot better. Yes,
so
thank you.
That's 19 games. Wait, okay, so that's 19 games. I thought we were doing top 21 because it was 7
we
each.
were, but then X-Men knocked out Alien vs. Predator.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. I'm just going to go ahead and say, as per my understanding of the rules, it's my turn, and I'm putting Outrun on there. Let's just put Outrun on there. Come on.
Yeah, Outrun's number one, obviously.
Here's a funny thing.
What do you got?
I put Outrun 2 on my list instead. You probably don't like
No,
that.
well, here's what we're doing. Outrun is Outrun 2.
Okay.
Outrun 2 is just a new version of Outrun, man. Outrun is also Space Harrier. I don't know. I don't make the rules. Outrun is also Super Hang-On. I don't make the rules there either. Outrun is just the crystalline essence of Yu Suzuki.
Put like Outrun in parentheses representative.
Yeah. So Outrun. And it is also, most importantly, it is also Afterburner, Afterburner 2, and Afterburner Climax. Just it is the legend of Yu Suzuki as writ in video game.
It's the old go straight.
Yeah, it's all there. So the fact that Outrun 1 and Outrun 2 are so similar and have the same exact soul, but exist so many years apart, is one of the most beautiful business-related video game stories in history, if not the most. Right?
I feel like the drift of Outrun supplants the original of Outrun 2 supplants the original Outrun for me.
Oh, sure.
But
I mean, it's weird
it's
video
all Outrun,
gamey,
baby.
Weird video gamey hokey drift. No matter what. I mean, if it came down to it, and if it had to be like, so I'm saying Outrun definitively, but if it came down to it and we needed to consult twin galaxies or whatever, of course it would be Outrun 2.
Yeah, okay.
Outrun 2, right? Of course, but I like just calling Outrun 2 Outrun. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
It's just Outrun, but it's the new one. It's the newer version. It's neither a remake nor a remaster nor a sequel. It's
whatever
just
Outrun you got.
Yeah, it's just here it is. And there's so many Outrun 2s as well. But the fact that there are so many different, so if we were splitting hairs, I would be saying Outrun 2. The fact that Outrun 2 occurred, it came out when it did, that it was released alongside a very similar time frame release window to Afterburner Climax, also in the arcades, also by Sega, also with a luxurious big cabinet where they were having this whole the arcades are back thing where, I, living in Japan at the time, living in Tokyo and going to arcades, beautiful arcades all the time, I never really thought, I had my arcades are back moment in like 2001, right? So it's like I was just ready to say the arcades are back. The arcades have always been back. The Outrun 2's utility was that it brought Outrun back into arcades that had removed Outrun from their rotation, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the original wasn't there anymore, but now there's Outrun 2, and you can play it, and it doesn't upset any. No purists were upset. So I don't know, you probably had a religious experience with Outrun when you were a kid, right?
Mm-hmm. And then I had another one with Outrun 2.
With Outrun 2, yeah, wildly, unpredictably. It's like, oh, it's still the best thing. It is what, as a child in an arcade, I went into an arcade and I wanted to fly an airplane and I wanted to drive a car, right?
Yeah.
And I got to do both of those things, albeit in ultra cartoonish fashion with Afterburner and with Outrun. Outrun also gave me the wish fulfillment of, it's not just a car, it's a Ferrari. It's not just a Ferrari, it's a convertible. I mean, it wasn't literally a Ferrari. It's not just a Ferrari, it's a convertible. And it's not just driving a Ferrari that's a convertible. It's driving a Ferrari that's a convertible while listening to nice music. And it's not just listening to nice music, it's listening to nice music in a tropical clime. And it's not just a tropical clime, it's a hot blonde girlfriend, right? So it's like all of these things experienced by an 8-year-old, right? Absolutely sublime, just absolutely knocking off of the socks was heard round the world with that game. And not only that, it's a video and it's an audio visually beautiful game. Blazing fast speed. We love the speed, don't we, folks?
Certainly.
It's got
Gotta go
stuff
fast.
scaling in and out. The billboarded sprites, just scaling is so fast. just migranulous in its virtuosity. Beautiful steering wheel, beautiful gas pedal. And then Outrun 2 comes out, and holy Lord, you've got that beautiful cabinet, the deluxe cab, right? Did you ever play the date mode where you and the date sit behind the wheel? Yeah, and there's two of you, and it randomly hands the wheel off to the other person. There's two steering wheels, driver's ed style, but it says, okay, player on the right, you're playing now. Okay, player on the left, you're playing now. And it just hands it off, and you're meant to sit there and yell and laugh. And then, you go to the arcade with somebody who you're just driving, and you just, handing off in mid-drift. And seamlessly collecting all of the hearts and seamlessly driving through the game. And it's just this beautiful experience. It's one of the most meaningful multiplayer experiences you can have in a game. And it's also just, it's a Ferrari. It's red as heck. Blue skies. It's Sega. More Sonic the Hedgehog than Sonic the Hedgehog ever was. If ever there were a game to wear a nice leather jacket while playing it, it's that one. And it's also Afterburner. I don't know, man. I could talk about Outrun for hours upon hours, just millions of hours.
What I appreciate about Outrun Asteroids as well is that there is an experience with that has not changed across the multitudinous decades
of
since the first version, and all like any sort of Outrun Asteroids. Even today, you go to a Round 1 arcade, and there is a 6 to 8 year old child just winging that steering wheel back and forth. Without having inserted a credit, because they don't have the money and their parents just left them there without anything to do.
Yeah.
But they're just racking on that steering wheel, pretending to play the attract mode. And I love that is still real. Kids still want to pretend to drive, and they want to have a fun experience. And it's still actually fun to them to sit there for 15 minutes and pretend they're driving, even though they can't put a coin in like that. And
the game itself is so the shape of a child's dreams, just in general, right? That you don't even need the goddamn quarter, dude. The game plays you. It's beautiful, and in my opinion, that's why I'd put it at number 1. The fact that it would be right above Outfoxies is even better.
What I want to do is I want to put Outrun at the top with an asterisk and then a footnote that says Outrun 2.
Yeah, that seems good.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right.
And I guess we're done with this list because we got 20. But I just want to say it would have been really funny to put Mushi King on here.
Oh, I love Mushi King.
Yeah.
God, I love Mushi King, dude.
Mushi King being the rock, paper, scissors, bug battling game.
I presume you didn't watch my Boku no Natsuyasumi review, which has like a 10-minute segment about Mushi King in it. So
did you ever figure out whose Natsuyasumi it truly is? Is it Boku referring to him or Boku referring to me?
It's the main character's name is literally Boku.
Okay, so it's his Natsuyasumi.
His name is Kubota Boku. Is his actual full name. It's not revealed until the very end, but Kubota Boku.
I did not know.
So
anyway, no, I didn't watch it, but I would like to. I would like to watch that. And Mushi King, that's a fun game and ridiculous. But anyway, let's not put it on here.
Love that game, though. I've got it over here, dude, on my Naomi emulator.
Nice.
But that's essentially arcade because you need those cards.
When I was in Japan, I was looking for the Tamagotchi-looking version.
Oh, man, I want it.
Because, as I believe I've discussed on this show, its industrial design was by the guy who did all the Saturn controllers and like the Knights 3D controller. The music is by Sakurai. The programming is by Kan Naito. It's like
it's a very strange,
kind of bizarre. Also, and the game design was by someone as well who was a famous person. Like I don't know. What a bizarreness. Anyway, if someone's got that keychain out there, gimme.
We don't have time for recommendations. This entire episode was recommendations.
That's true.
The recommendation is get yourself just download a MAME set.
Get a MAME.
And spin the dial, drop the needle, play whatever comes up, and you'll have a good time.
People always ask where to get the ROMs. Archive.org, baby.
Yes.
They're just there.
Archive.org,
They're
yeah.
just there, and no one's taking them down. They're just there.
This list will be available on forums.insertcredit.com and patreon.com/insertcredit. If you're listening to the show in some format where you can subscribe to review podcasts, please do that. You could go to patreon.com/insertcredit to listen to monthly bonus episodes, submit your own topics, get stuff like this list. You can go to forums.insertcredit.com to discuss where we got this list wrong, but we didn't. You could follow us on Twitter at InsertCredit. You could search for Insert Credit on YouTube for the lovely video versions that get put up, that I'm sure there will be some kind of live updating ranked list if our editor is so inclined to put that together. Please wishlist Demon School on Steam by Necrosoft.
Please do. Also wishlist Hyper Gunsport, which just got canceled off of Stadia.
Yeah, please do. Support the Video Game History Foundation with your tax write-offable donation. This show is edited by Esper Quinn with original music by Kurt Feldman. I'm Alex Jaffe.
I'm Frank Cifaldi.
I'm Tim Rogers.
I'm Brandon Sheffield.
And Suffer Like 3 did.
I got to go. My buddy's here. My buddy from Japan is here. Oh, he buzzed!
There he is.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God. He just buzzed, and now all three of these dogs are screaming. They're screaming like animals.
All right, bye.
All right. I'm gonna go ahead and go.
Bye. Yeah, good. Bye.
My buddy from Japan, he works for Namco, if anybody has any questions.
We've got a whole situation over there.